Howdy, howdy. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Morning. Oh. Welcome, welcome. The Illuminati welcomes you. Welcome, welcome. We haven't done this topic in a while. We'll see if we can get any bites today. If we don't get any bites, then we don't get any bites and we'll change the topic. Oh, you know what I don't have? All right, we have our first guest. David.
Yo.
David, how's it going?
Fine.
Glad to hear it. David, how old do you think the Earth is?
How old do I think the Earth is? I mean, whatever science says, like a couple billion years old, something like that. The Catholic Church never said that the Earth is 6,000 years old. I mean,
I'm glad that your church didn't say that. Thanks for being here. That's good. One sec, y'all. We'll bring up our next guest in a moment. I believe their name is Stories, but I just want to add something really quick. Gotta put that there. Gotta put that there. There we go. Now I'm happy. All right, let's bring on our next guest. Stories, how's it going? Stories? 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 Can you hear me? Okay. Bring up probably Gabe. Might not be Gabe, but, you know, probably Gabe.
It might be Gabe.
Probably Gabe, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are.
Yeah,
How are
Gabe,
you today?
how old do you think the Earth is?
I believe that the Earth is a couple 100 million years old, or maybe a billion. I don't know. I wasn't there for the beginning. How old do you believe the Earth is?
You know, at least, or around 4.5 billion years old. But look, today I'm interested in talking to people who have who think that the Earth is 6,000 years old or around there. So I'm gonna let you go. But thanks for being here, Gabe.
Wait, one question. What church believes that the Earth is 6,000 years old? Because I haven't heard of that actually.
Joel Osteen's church. Lots of evangelical churches in the United States
I've heard of Joel Osteen. He's based out in Texas, correct?
I don't remember where he's based, but lots of evangelical churches do.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Later. All right, let's talk to the Constrictor.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Constrictor, how's it going?
It's going good.
Constrictor, how old do you think the
sorry.
Earth is?
I mean, I think nobody knows, you know?
You think nobody knows?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, maybe some elite.
So how old do you think it is?
Like I said, I would have no clue, you know? Do you have any clue?
Yeah, like 4.5 billion years old or so, with some change.
Yeah, how did you get to that conclusion?
Through the entire body of scientific literature that we have access to over the last 100 years or so. We can, you know,
so
examine that literature and come to look at the data ourselves and come to that conclusion.
Gotcha. So other people kind of influenced your decision on that, right?
Well, I mean, like, look, nobody can do every experiment. What we do as humans is we cooperate, and scientists especially are really good at publishing their data and making it available, and then we can look at it ourselves.
Would you admit, like Dr. Dr. King, right? We just had his day yesterday, right? Like, he was one of the only PhDs 100 years ago. Like, he was one of the early PhDs, right? I'm saying there was less doctors, like less people had doctorates back in the day, right?
Yeah, but like,
okay, so
MLK,
would you admit that there was less?
MLK was like, example. Yeah, it probably was, because that was like,
I'm saying, would you admit that there were less? Would you admit that there were less scientists back in the day?
Not necessarily. Well, okay, yes, of course there were, because there were fewer people. There were fewer people alive. So, like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's try to have a debate that's in good faith. Okay, so yeah, 100 years ago there was a lot less scientists.
So what I was getting at is that it's not necessarily true that, like, per capita the number of scientists is lower, right?
Okay, so
but yeah, I mean, there were, like, 100 years ago there were, like, several billion fewer people. So, like, yeah, there's going to be less scientists.
Would you admit that the funnel to becoming a scientist was a lot more tight knit, right? So, like, it was more of a controlled operation.
I wouldn't use that phrasing. I wouldn't use that phrasing. I don't think that it was like a controlled operation. It was just harder because people...
Who ran the universities?
Well, hold on. So the reason why it was harder was because generally people needed, like, 150 years ago, we were just getting out of the Industrial Revolution. And so often people needed to work on farms in order to feed their family. And so it just wasn't an option for people to go spend 4, 6, 8 years at a university.
I understand how reality worked back in the day. What I'm asking you is how many, there was less universities, right? So you'd have less scientists, right? And the tops of these universities definitely could, talk to each other a little bit better than, say, now that you have tons of universities, right?
What do you mean that they could talk to each other? I mean, we can communicate better now than we could 100 years ago.
Like a fraternity, right?
No, I don't think that that's the case. No. So we have better communication. We have better communications now than we did 100 years ago.
Yeah, but it would be more widespread now, right? So you have different opinions.
Yeah, but I can now collaborate with a person in Poland and a person in New Zealand.
Yeah, for sure.
Instantaneously, and 100 years ago they couldn't. So no, it's just not the case that they could communicate better.
So when science was becoming, way more established, it was a lot more of a small knit community, is what I'm trying to express here.
In some sense, it was a wider community because people were more poorly connected.
How would it be wider if there was less people?
Because the networks were smaller, because people couldn't communicate with each other as easily.
There we go. Just what we just said. So with the network being smaller, right? It was more of a controlled.
Okay, you misunderstood. When I say the network is smaller, I mean it was less interconnected.
Yes, so with it being smaller, you'd admit that there was probably fewer people at the top of these scientific institutions. Correct?
Well, there were fewer people, but they were also likely not working or in contact with each other.
Oh, so they weren't in contact with each other.
Yeah, because the amount of contact that you could have with each other, with local collaborators. And occasionally there would be mixing of ideas, like you would have some people travel, they would get on a boat and travel for 3 months to go somewhere else. But, like, those were rare occasions.
Very rare, right?
Yeah.
You don't think that the people at the top of these scientific institutions talked?
Look, I'm sure that they did. I'm sure that they sent letters, but it's really, really difficult to form, form conspiracies or to organize or to whatever. It's hard. It's much, much harder to do a global version of that without modern telecommunications, right?
Now, back in the day, you admitted they sent letters to each other. Now, back in the day,
of course they did, and the letters would take a month and a half to get to each other.
Yeah, and we can read them now. So, who funded these operations?
Usually it would have been either the kingdoms that these universities were in, or it may have been, like, if you were in a democracy, then it may have been like a public service. It may have also been private donors. It was very distributed.
Yeah, so if you were a king back in the day,
sometimes churches.
And you were a king back in the day. There you go. Yeah, the church was definitely involved.
I mean, it depends on the place.
Well, I mean, it's just like the Catholics had the largest telescope up until, like, what, 10, 15 years ago or something?
No, that's not true.
No, that is true. You can Google it.
Okay, let's Google it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually made a video about the largest telescopes over time, and the Vatican has never had the largest telescope.
I said they had one of the largest up until
You said, I'm pretty sure you said that they had the largest. We could replay the live stream if you want, but how big is the Vatican telescope? The Vatican telescope is 6 feet across, and if I remember correctly, the first 6-foot telescope was built in the 1800s, and it was not at the Vatican. Like it was.
I need you to type
in fact, the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope first turned on in 1993.
I need you to type into Google who had the largest telescope in the 1970, 1980.
Okay, the largest telescope in 1970 was the University of Hawaii's 88-inch telescope on Mauna Kea.
88 inches. How big is that?
2.2 meters. It's like 7 feet.
So it was 1 foot bigger than the one in
it's
the.
Larger.
So there we go. So my point is,
and to be clear, the Vatican telescope opened 23 years later.
There you go. So my point is this. So you had the kings that were funding both religion and science.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
The kingdoms that.
Hold on. Let me clarify. The University of Hawaii's 88-inch telescope was the world's highest and first computer-controlled large telescope, but it wasn't the largest telescope at the time. In fact, I can just go look at a table and I can sort by telescopes, but the 200-inch Hale telescope at Palomar, which had been operational since 1949, it was 200 inches. More than twice as big as the Vatican telescope. So, I mean, you're just mistaken. You're just kind of like spreading misinformation here.
The whole point isn't the fact that the Vatican had a telescope.
Why did you mention it at all? Because it's completely false. Everything that you said about it was false.
Dude, that's not at all the case. My point is
you said it was the largest telescope. And then you said it was, then you implied that it was the largest telescope in the 1970s, but it was built in 1993.
The point of this
and it wasn't even the largest telescope.
Brother, the point of this is who's funding the scientists, right? So at one point you admitted that it was kings and it was
kings, churches, governments, private individuals.
There you go. So why would these people decide like they had religion, they had science to go off of? Well, why did they switch from religion? Why did they switch from religion to science?
Oxford and Cambridge were both founded as religious institutions.
Of course, it was funded. Yeah, that's what this is all about.
It was originally a religious institution. That's why the church funded it.
You're not going around the bend here, dude. So why would these
there is no bend.
Religious? They had everybody under control with the religion, is what I'm saying, and then they had
who's they?
Oh man, dude, you guys act so smart, but all you are is pretentious, man. That's all you are. Like you won't admit that there's flaws.
You've been talking down to me this entire conversation, and you're calling me pretentious.
No, it's the way that you address things. Like you can't admit that back in the day there were less scientists. You have to go around it as many times as you could. Oh well, actually,
we definitely had the conversation about how there, of course, were less scientists because there were less people. The point is that it's not clear that there were fewer scientists per capita. It's also not clear that they were more well connected because there were few of them because they didn't have access to modern telecommunications. So I'm sorry, like your conspiracy-addled brain is just not going to fly here. You got to actually present evidence or at least rational conclusions.
It's literally not a conspiracy when you've admitted that there were less scientists.
Admitted?
That were funneled,
what's to admit? This is not some like something that's being hidden, right? Like, of course there were fewer scientists 100 years ago. There were fewer people 100 years ago.
The point
this is not something to admit. This is obviously the case.
You have no ability to follow up on half of the shit that they do.
Sure, you do.
No, you really don't. You take word from other people. You just said you can't recreate most of the experiments.
Hold on. When did I say that? Literally, when did I say that?
In the very beginning of this conversation.
No, I didn't say anything along those lines. You want to replay it?
I did admit I was wrong with the telescope. I said they had one of the largest.
Do you want to replay it?
What I meant to say, not the largest. Sorry, there was a comment.
Do you want to replay the live stream from the beginning? We can see if I said that I can't recreate any of these experiments. Want to see if I said that?
I didn't say you couldn't recreate any of them. You said that you couldn't recreate most of them. Like,
well, I didn't say that either.
You can recreate them. Like if you went out and did it.
I didn't say that either. By the way.
Have you done it?
All right, we're gonna replay it.
Have you recreated these experiments?
So yeah, sure.
Yeah. It might have
MLK
been a
was really good at publishing their data and
Have
making it
you
available.
recreated these experiments?
Hold on,
Have
we're
you
gonna
personally-
we are
No, no, no,
replaying the
The
live.
whole point of this.
Well, I mean, like, look, nobody can do every
the point of
experiment.
This is have
Well-
you done it? Have you done it?
The data ourselves and come to that
Have
conclusion.
you recreated the experiments?
Gotcha. So other people kind of influenced your decision on that, right?
Well, I mean, like, look, nobody can do every experiment. What we do as
Right,
humans is
right.
we cooperate, and you know,
No,
scientists
you just
especially
said it.
are really
You
good at
just said it
publishing
right
their data
there.
and making it available. I'm sorry, I said nobody can redo every experiment.
So you
Do you think
admitted
that
that, you
that-
haven't done any of this shit.
That-
You haven't
wait,
recreated
to be clear,
most of these.
To be clear, that's not saying anything about what I've done. That's saying that nobody can
Let's
do
go
every
comments. Let's go
experiment.
comments. Who won that right there? Yeah, you all you do is sit there and act pretentious, bro. You have
Yeah,
not
let's see what the
recreated
comments
any
say.
of these. You follow the fucking scientists of today, and because they're your new preachers. They're your new
So
priests.
Constrictor, just a quick question. Do you think it's possible to do every job on Earth?
If I'm going to talk about it, I would have done it.
No, I'm sorry. That wasn't my question. Do you think it's possible for anybody to do every single job on Earth?
If I'm going to sit here and do a live,
Why are you dodging? Do you think that it's possible for any single person to do every single job on Earth?
You're a hypocrite. You recreate. You're a
Why are
parrot.
you dodging?
You're a parrot.
Oh, I didn't know that we had a pivoting
You're
parry, a
well-spoken-
dodging Daniel,
You're a well-spoken parrot.
and
bro.
avoiding Andrew. Why can't you answer the question, my guy?
You regurgitate.
All
I
right,
like
that's
your
the
rhyme.
third dodge. That's the third
But you
dodge.
regurgitate-
I stole it
you
from Ian. It's a
regurgitate-
funny joke.
It is funny. But you regurgitate shit that
Constrictor,
you don't
why
know.
can't you answer the question? I've answered so many of your questions. Why can't you answer mine?
I just told you.
No, you didn't answer
If
my
I-
question. You just mentioned something about yourself. I was asking, can any single person do every single job? It's a yes or no question.
I mean, that's a stupid question. What?
Oh, so
actually,
you
it's not-
refuse to answer it?
What do you mean? Can any
Can any individual person do every single job?
Is
Yeah.
there a person on Earth that's capable of doing every single job?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Who?
I would take, if you take the smartest scientist, I'm sure you could train him to do every single job below him, right?
No, I mean like actually do every single job, not like be capable of doing every single job, just actually do every single job.
If he's going to talk about it, he should have done it.
That wasn't my question. My question was, is
Yeah,
it
but I
possible
don't
for
give
a
a shit
person to
about
do
your
every
question.
single job?
You're
Oh,
a
okay, so you're just
hypocrite,
refusing to
bro.
answer?
You're a hypocrite.
So you just refuse to answer. When I actually ask you a single
you're a-
question, you
you're a
refuse to
smarty
answer it
pants-
despite the
you're a
fact that I've
smarty
asked you
pants
or I've
hypocrite.
answered questions from you over and
You
over
sit up
again.
here, you sit up here and regurgitate bullshit. That's what you do.
You don't even know what I believe.
You don't even know if it's right or not because you haven't done the shit.
Have you done anything, Constrictor? Have you done anything with your life? Do you know anything?
Here we go. Here we go.
Do you
Because
know anything?
everyone in the comments watch this. He is just broken because he knows that I'm right.
Do you know anything?
I'm a professional mixed martial artist. Yeah, I know how to fucking fight.
Wait, are you? Have you done every single martial art?
Yeah.
Oh, you've done every single martial art. Okay, let's pull up a
pretty much all
list.
of them. Let's go.
All right. Have you done Bateriacht?
Was that in out of Africa?
So no, you haven't done it. It's Irish. Oh, so wait a minute. You're telling me that you haven't done every single martial art? How can you say that you can do martial arts?
Every mainstream martial art I've done, yes.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that it's not possible
single
to have done
mainstream
every single
martial
martial art? How can you say that you've done a martial art then?
No, every single mainstream martial art that I would sit up there and talk about, I have done.
Oh, okay. So now
Have
we're
you
changing
done-
the
have
question.
you
Now
done-
we're changing the
Have you
tune,
done
right?
quantum-
The
have you
claim
done
was
quantum mechanics?
the claim was that
Have you
you've
done
done every single
scientific-
martial arts, and now you're saying, oh well, I've done
Mainstream.
every single martial
I
arts that I would
meant
talk about that's mainstream.
Dude, of course you can pull up a random ass thing, but I could easily go study whatever you said. But guess what? If it was mainstream and I'm going to sit up here and talk about it, I've done it.
Fortunately, I've done quantum mechanics, I've done relativity, I've done statistical mechanics, I've
There
done
we go.
thermodynamics, I've done all of these things.
So why are you sitting on TikTok live and not doing it as a job?
This is a part-time gig
Because
that I
you're
do, and I do
incapable.
research.
No,
I do research for the other
You're-
part-time
You're
thing.
not a scientist. You're not a scientist.
I don't know if you know.
literally regurgitate-
I'm
you
I'm
regurgitate
like
the
I'm a
bullshit
published
that's
scientist. I'm a published scientist. I don't know if you know this. Like I have more than a dozen publications in the last 5 years.
What kind of science?
I'm a physicist.
There's different kinds of physics.
Yeah, I imagine that you probably don't know what cosmology and black hole relativity are.
There we go. So you base everything off of the math of what? Like the black hole. Where did we get the math for the black holes at?
I'm sorry.
Have you
Why are
been
we
to-
deflecting?
Have you been? Have you
I'm a
been to a black
scientist.
hole?
This is the
No, have
fields
you
that
been-
I'm an
have you
expert
been
in.
have you been to a black hole?
Have you been to Ireland?
I had a trip planned and then COVID happened. But so,
So
a black hole.
Right. So you're right. I haven't been to a black hole. You haven't been to Ireland. How do we know that either exists?
There you go. There you go.
So, oh, did you just admit that Ireland might not exist?
Have you watched the Truman Show?
Are you high?
You sit up here. No, I'm saying that you sit up here on your fucking.
I can't believe you just
bullshit.
admitted that you don't know that Ireland exists.
If I've never been,
This is delusional.
How can I 100%? If I've never been,
Who said anything
how
about
can I-
100%?
You just said it.
I literally didn't say the number 100 at all in this live stream whatsoever. Are you having a conversation with me, or are you like deluding something and then you're imagining that I'm saying things that I'm not saying?
I think that scientists are your new priests. I think you regurgitate.
I am
all
a
the shit.
scientist.
Yeah, and that's why your comment section is full of people who worship you. They have no
Okay, so the
clue
tune is
what-
changing,
what
huh?
you're
Now that you found out I'm actually an
they have
accomplished
no- they
scientist,
have
now you're
no
changing your
clue.
tune from you're just
I didn't say
regurgitating
you were an
everything to your
accomplished- I didn't say you were an
comments
accomplished scientist.
are just
You're-
obeying and listening to your every word.
Your
You're changing the
specialty is
tune
in
once you
black
found
holes.
out that I'm actually a genuine scientist
Your
who actually works in the
specialty-
field.
Bro, it's not in the field. You literally have used the math.
What do
from
you mean
somebody
it's
else.
not in the field? That's what the field is.
You're taking math from somebody else.
What do you think that physicists like myself do? We make the math.
Yeah, you make the math. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I think.
No,
Yeah,
you
it's all
didn't think that. You literally didn't
it's
think that. Do you
made
want me to
up.
replay it for you? Because I can replay it for you.
You're not understanding at all what I'm saying. Worship you. They have no
Okay, so the
clue
tune is
what-
changing,
what
huh?
you're
Now that you found out I'm actually an
they have
accomplished
no- they
scientist,
have
now
no
you're changing your
clue.
tune from you're just
I didn't say
regurgitating
you were an
everything to your
accomplished- I didn't say you were an accomplished
comments
scientist.
are just
You're-
obeying and listening to your every word.
Your
You're changing the
specialty is in
tune once you
black
found
holes.
out that I'm actually a genuine scientist
Your
who actually works in the field.
Bro, it's not in the field. You literally have used the math.
What do
from
you mean
somebody
it's
else.
not in the field? That's what the field is.
You're taking math from somebody else.
Did you hear that? You're taking math from somebody else. Let's keep listening. What do you think
Yeah, that's
that
what I said.
physicists like myself do? We make the math.
Yeah, you make the math. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I think.
So earlier you said you take the math, and then you said, oh yeah, that agrees. You make the math. That's what I think. No, you just changed your mind because you were wrong and you refused to admit it.
No, that's the same. You take the math from somebody else. You make the math up. It's the same.
Those are
fucking
not
thought.
those are not the same thing. Those are obviously different things.
Carbon dating.
Yep,
Are there any
that's
flaws?
the pivot. That's the pivot that I thought you were going to make.
Carbon dating. No, because we can't. We're not going to have any going into conspiratorial like whatever. It's not obviously your brain can't understand what I'm trying to say. Like there were less scientists.
Oh
at the
yes,
top.
the guy who
have
thinks for a
influenced you.
living. The guy who thinks for a living definitely can't understand the meathead martial artists conspiracy. You
I
got
don't
me. You
approach
got me there.
sports from a meathead standpoint. First,
I'm
off,
sure you
it's-
don't.
It's a pretty honest sport. Like it's pretty revealing when
It's
you
look. I totally get it. That like I'm totally in line with doing martial arts. I did martial arts for a while as a child and teenager. I think that it's like a
Right.
valuable sport, but it's definitely not the kind of sport where you need to be using your brain in such a way that you can outthink somebody whose job is to think.
Wow. Well, I would disagree, but let's get to carbon dating. I'm carbon dating. Are there any flaws with it or no?
First, before we go into that, I need to make sure that you actually know what carbon dating is. Can you tell me what carbon dating is?
Oh man, see, this is what we do. We get into definitions. We get into semantics. Like I'm just asking you as a human being, have there been any issues with carbon dating?
I need to know what you think carbon dating is.
I just don't think.
Do you know what
it-
carbon dating is?
Carbon is what?
So you don't know what carbon dating is?
You're dating you're. I couldn't tell you how they do it.
Could you tell me what the principle behind it is?
Yeah, it's just to determine the age of.
That's its
atoms,
goal.
of
What's the
carbon.
principle?
What do you mean?
Like, how does it work?
I just said I couldn't tell you how they do it. I know that there are flaws in it. Like they found
How can you
belt
say that there are
buckle
flaws
they
in
carbon
it
dated
if you don't even know
because
how it
they found-
works?
They found door handles that they carbon dated at 100,000 years old. They found belt buckles.
Well, that's
they
a
found
lie.
wallets. No, it's not a lie.
It is a
There's
lie
tons of
because carbon dating has you will never find a single scientist alive who will say that carbon dating can ever get you an age older than 50,000 years. So you just lied to me.
Bro, then how? Okay, so how?
Why'd you lie to me?
What, dude? What form of whatever kind of carbon dating? Like, what variation of that do you use to
They
determine?
don't use carbon dating for the age of the Earth.
That's what I'm talking about. Arguing semantics. You know what I'm
This
trying
isn't
to say.
semantics. You just don't know what you're talking about, and I'm nailing you on that.
What do they use to determine the age of the planet that you're basing everything in your life off of? What
The
is
primary
science?
way is called uranium lead dating and potassium argon dating.
There you go. Okay, Spock. Now let's go on that. Is there any flaws with that?
Not really. No.
There's never been.
Not that I've heard of.
Oh man.
Have you heard of them? Have you heard of any flaws with uranium lead dating?
Well, obviously, I thought it was still on the carbon dating. I haven't been updated on.
It's never been carbon dating. Carbon dating has never been used to determine the age of the Earth.
I think you're wrong there, but obviously I've been wrong about some shit. But there's no way for you to determine that this planet is that old, dude.
Why not?
You haven't done it.
I'm sorry. What do you think you have to do when you're a senior undergrad in a physics degree?
I think you have to regurgitate whatever the person above you said.
Okay. So then you probably didn't do a science-based field in college if you went to college. No, you have to do labs. You know what a lab is?
And the labs are designed by who?
Doesn't matter who they're designed by. You're collecting your own data.
Yes, it does. It does matter. Yeah, because they can recreate it to where you're going to get the same data every time because of the math that they designed.
What's there to recreate? You're measuring some physical real thing.
Have you ever heard of gematria? Have you ever heard of gematria?
It's pronounced gematria, by the way. And second of all, it is completely unrelated to the idea that in a lab, you are collecting your own data. You analyze your own data. The data is not provided to you by higher ups. You have like a thing, like a lump of metal or like a piece of electronics or whatever, and then you do measurements on it. And that data is, if you did your lab correctly, that data is an accurate measure of the thing that you're trying to measure. And if you're a bad scientist, then you'll get bad data. But like, the point is that this is not something that someone can control. People cannot control the radioactive decay rate of a metal.
What? Say that again?
You can't control the radioactive decay rate of a metal.
They already know what that's going to be.
Yeah, and that's what we use when we try to date things like uranium or zircon crystals in particular. We use the radioactive decay rate, which is a known quantity. It's known because we can measure it.
It's made up math.
What's made up about it? It's a measured quantity. Ah, yes, the sky is blue. That's made up. No, it's measured.
See, if I was like you, dude, I would sit there and go, the sky's not actually blue. It's this and this and this and this. No, dude, I'm not going to argue semantics with you. At the end of the day,
you're currently arguing semantics with me. You're telling me that measurements are made up.
You're not admitting that you just got your information from people who are above you. That's it. You haven't done it.
So to be clear, during undergrad labs, there's a course, at least at the university I was at, called Advanced Labs, and you have to take 2 of these as an undergraduate to finish your physics degree. And during the advanced lab courses, you have to do basically 4. They're like several week-long experiments over the course of a single term, and then you do this twice for 2 different courses. And you can pick which experiments you want to do. And one of the experiments that I did was measuring radioactive decay rates.
I understand this, but
and so yes, I did make those measurements myself.
Scientists are the new priests.
You can keep saying that if it makes you feel good, but it doesn't make it true.
Kings funded you guys when it was in their best interest to control the new age narrative.
You know what's great? We don't have kings in this country.
Who sent over the first Americans?
I'm sorry, were they Americans when they came over?
Spaniards, whatever, Vikings, any of it.
Yeah, so in America, we don't
who
have
sent those
kings.
people
I know
up?
that you probably want a king in
who
America, but we don't have
who
kings in
funded?
America.
That was good. That was a nice little lowbrow, attack, right? I
Am
think
I wrong?
I think you regurgitate information to feel smarter than
That's
you
like
are,
the
right?
fourth time you've said that, and I know that it feels good to keep repeating it. It doesn't make it any more true.
Well, no, I'm just saying it for the people who are coming in that are sitting there talking shit, You guys can be pretentious. You guys can sit there and act like because this guy's telling you shit.
Does
But at the
it
end of the
bother
day,
you
it's
when
a
people are
Truman
smarter
Show.
than you?
No, I appreciate, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
Well, look, I'm just asking you. Does
I
it
admit
bother?
that you have a higher IQ than me, 100%. Like you're a very intelligent person. The
So
problem
then
is
why can't you actually just absorb knowledge, absorb
intelligent
information
people
that
are
you're
the-
getting from other people, rather than just saying, "Nuh-uh, I know better, you're deluded, I'm
I've
not a
absorbed-
sheep, you're a sheep."
No, I'm gonna go do some research after this
You
discussion
should.
on what we
Well,
talked
try to
about.
do
But
it not on YouTube or TikTok. Try to pick up an encyclopedia.
Intelligent people are the easiest to trick.
I mean, that's not really true.
No, it is true, because you get caught up in your own sense of grandeur, right? You get caught up in patting yourself on the back that you're better than everyone else around you because you're more intelligent. But the fact is, you are just going off of bullshit that people were paid to tell you. Okay, that's all it was. They were paid back in the day to recreate a whole new religion, and that's what's happened.
What
And
do you
it's
mean
just
back in
like
the
if
day? None of my professors were alive. None of my professors were
just
alive during the King era.
But their professors were, their professors were, their professors were.
Do you
It's
think
just
that?
handed
Wait,
down
wait. So to be
information.
clear, do you know
And you
when?
have to
Do you know
give it
when
to you.
modern science basically established itself? Like when we can really talk about like the beginning of the era of modern
Bro,
science,
you
which
can't
is like
see-
rigorous
way to-
data
way to
taking.
try to
Are you
pivot.
familiar
So
with this?
You can't follow me down what I was saying. All you do is pivot to try to.
Well, this is addressing your point, right? That like their professors and their professors and so on and so forth, right? Do you know when modern science really came into its own?
I mean, it'd be like the 1600s.
No. I mean, like, the scientific method was perhaps developed in the 1600s, but the way that we do science today really came about at the turn of the century, around the late 1800s, early 1900s. Before that, science was kind of vibes-based. And, like, they were still doing science, but, like, they weren't, like, doing rigorous statistical analysis and that kind of stuff. They weren't doing double blinds and all that stuff. So the way that we do science now, really, like, it came into its own really at the end of the 1800s or the beginning of the 1900s. And you know who was pioneering that?
Who else came around at that time, would you think? Who else was funded and founded around the 1700s?
We're not talking about the 1700s. We're at this late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah, late 1700s in
no,
France.
late
What was that?
1800s. What are we talking? Why are you bringing up the 1700s? We're talking about the 1800s and the.
Who else was founded in the late 1700s in France?
Why are we talking about the 1700s? That's 100 years off from what I'm talking about.
It's like 1780.
Yeah, we're talking
brother.
about like 1880s to the 1920s on my end.
And how
Why
long
are you
do
bringing up
think it
some
would
random
take?
time period
How
100 years
long-
before?
How long
So look,
do you think?
just
it
to be
would
clear,
take?
the
You wanna
modern
avoid it
scientific.
because you know where
Well, no,
I'm
I mean, I'm
going.
not.
You
I
know
actually have
where
no
I'm
idea
going.
where you're going. It's probably something like
bear with
batshit
me.
crazy. But like the point
Yeah,
is
because
the
you
reason
know-
why I
you
bring
know
this
where I'm
up.
going.
The reason why I bring this up.
Your scientists were
I'm sorry, I had to mute you. The reason why I bring this up is because the way that we do modern science really kind of originated both in the United States and in Germany. And both of these places were democracies at the time. They didn't have kings.
Bro, you want to sit here and just do semantics.
This is not semantics. This is an important point that the way that we do modern science was really started in, Germany and the United States, and neither of those were kings. Neither of those had kings.
Oh, man. All right. Well, at the end of the day, everything that you were taught was the same way that people were taught religion.
At the end of the day is what people say when they've been blown out the entire time and then just want to repeat what they came in saying because they forgot what I said the entire time.
I haven't forgotten anything you said, dude. I appreciate the conversation. Like I said, I think you're intelligent. I think, I need to come better prepared with certain things. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to set down your accolades. It's like with mixed martial arts, right? If I was only jiu-jitsu and I went against boxing because I was like, that doesn't work in this situation, right? I would have never improved in all the way around, right? With you, you're never going to set aside what you've done to think, hey, were there some nefarious people that might have gained from the scientific community?
Yeah, who was gaining from the scientific community between the late 1800s and the early 1900s?
The elite, dude.
Who? Can you name one?
Do you believe in God?
No.
Okay, so how many people believed in God before that?
Before the late 1800s, early 1900s?
Yes.
Most people. Most people believed in God between the late 1800s and early 1900s as well.
And would you say
in
that
fact,
now,
prior to World War II,
now,
in fact, it's even still true that most people believe in God.
No, it's not. They've done
at least in the West. At least in the West, it's true. In the East, it's very much not true.
Like 40-50%. It's gone down. Would you admit that it's at least drastically been cut
it's definitely gone. It's definitely gone down. Yeah, because
Okay,
you know,
so
it turns out
so?
that when you get a better understanding of where the world came from, you need less of an explanation from the divine.
No, they wanted to get people away from the divine.
Who's they?
Because the elite that run the world.
Can you name one?
Can I name one of the elites?
Yeah. Between the 1880s and the 1920s. Can you name one?
One of the 13 bloodlines.
Oh, this is that conspiracy.
Would you admit you don't think that there were bloodlines that ran the world?
No, it's delusional.
You don't think that there were bloodlines that why did they keep their blood so pure in Europe?
They didn't. There's so much mixing in Europe.
No, I'm talking about the royal families.
Because the way that you pass on your royalty is by your descendants. And so if you want to keep your power contained within that royalty, you have to, you know, marry your cousin or whatever.
So there were how many families that ran the world?
Probably lots. It depends on how you distinguish between what a family is. It depends on what you distinguish between what a family is. Are two cousins in the same family or in a different family? Because if they're in the same family, then there's like one family that was like basically the king or the royal family across all of Europe up until like the 1800s, when most of Europe basically became democracies.
There you go.
So they're democracies. So who was in charge between the 1880s and the 1920s that was relevant for the elite and wanted to, you know, trick the scientists? Who was doing this?
Up to the 1940s? Who do you think ran the world to the 1940s?
So between the 1880s and the 1920s.
What happened in 1938?
In the 1880s, between the 1880s and 1920s,
World War I
who was
happened.
benefiting from the
World War I
deception of the scientists? Who was benefiting?
When they were setting up this fucking what we're in now.
So they were predicting the future 100 years ago?
They were using what they could to take people away from the divine.
Sure. So you think that there's an enormous conspiracy to try to make people less religious by teaching them about science that is going to drastically improve the world? Is that your view?
You can have two things that are true at once. Like you can have technology that gets better, and you can also have people that are using it for nefarious reasons.
Can you give me an example of the nefarious reasons that people are using I
just told you, they're trying to get you
relativity
away from,
for? Like general relativity? What nefarious reason is that for?
If your foundations are built on sand, everything else is gonna.
Okay, in what way are the foundations built on sand? In what way is, say, general relativity built on sand?
You've spent your life talking about black holes that don't exist.
Oh, what's the evidence of that?
Your whole foundation is built on sand.
What's the evidence that black holes don't exist?
What's the evidence that it does?
Well, we have photos, we have gravitational wave detections, we have binary, we do.
No, we have CGI composite photos.
This is
CGI composite.
What do you think a digital photo is, my guy?
What do you think a digital photo is? Trust me, y'all say the same shit.
What do you think a digital photo is?
In 2026, it should be impossible for me to argue.
Well, it is impossible except you're brain dead, so like.
No, in 2026, you should have live camera feeds set up on the moon, set up on Mars. It's science.
You probably think that we didn't go to the moon, did you? Or don't you?
The only science that has regressed in the last 40 years has been what?
I can't think of a single one.
That's because you're,
Tell me, which science has regret? I know you want to get killed by Maud here, but I'm not going to let you. I'm just going to keep embarrassing you. Anyway, which science has regressed in the last 40 years?
What we were just talking about, like space travel. It's the only science that's regressed.
No, it hasn't. We can literally catch rockets now.
Yeah, Elon Musk can.
Yeah,
Look up
that's
how much money was spent.
that's space
Look up how much
travel
money-
science. What are you talking
No,
about?
look up how much money was
why does
spent on-
Elon Musk's contributions, or not his contributions, his
he
engineers'
had to come
contributions?
in.
Why does
He had to
Elon
come in
Musk's
and
engineers'
fix-
contributions, who by the way were educated at the universities that you're saying are trying to hide us from, God or whatever, why would their contributions not count towards humanity's achievements?
NASA was funded more money than, I mean, it's an insane budget.
You
We should
recognize that
literally
NASA's
we should
funding
be
as a
living in the
percentage of the
Jetson-
GDP has decreased
No,
since
it
the
was-
1970s?
Oh, it's gone down a lot since Trump got in office.
No, since the
but-
1970s. It actually hasn't decreased
not
since Trump
since-
got into
not
office.
since-
Yeah,
not
so
since-
want me to show you a percentage? Let me show you a chart.
Yeah, pull up how much they were funded.
Here.
We should literally be living in the Jetsons. You know what I mean? But you guys sit
That's
there.
what
and
delusional people say, by the
and
way.
you get off on your little CGI photos. That, I mean, it's like we don't have one live feed that shows Earth. There's not one live feed that shows Earth. Yeah, it's from
Wait,
the
sure
space
there
shuttle,
is.
yeah, or the space station. Oh, it shows a corner of Earth. No, I'm
Here.
talking about full Earth.
By the way, we get photos from the Himawari 8 spacecraft literally every 10 minutes of the Earth. So here's NASA spending relative to federal budget over the last several years. So if you notice, after the 1970s, the budget as a percentage of the federal
much
budget
money- how
has
much money is- this
decreased
doesn't
by
show-
like a
this doesn't
factor
show-
of 4.
This doesn't show the money though. And what is the number? What is the number?
The relevant number is how much of our budget is going to
No,
NASA.
what is the number that was put into it each year? How much money were they being funded?
Do you not understand percentages? You need help?
Okay, so what's the total GDP in 1965 off the top of your head?
This is the federal
Off the
budget,
top
not
of your
GDP.
head. Well, what's the federal budget in 1965 off the top of your head?
It's not really relevant. The point is
It
how
is
much
relevant.
we're
If I have to-
prioritizing
if
the
I have to break
space
down, we're at
industry.
4%, and in 1975 we're at 1%. I would need to know what that
No, but
initial number was.
so the
But you're gonna sit there
relevant
and act
data here.
pretentious. No, you're going to
So
sit there and act
constrictor,
pretentious. At the
the
end of the day,
relevant
dude,
data here
I'm
is
gonna let you
how
go.
much
I'm
we're
gonna go play
prioritizing.
some-
I know you're going to run. The relevant
No,
data
I'm
here
not-
is
I
how
don't
much we're
wanna talk to you anymore.
prioritizing space travel and the space industry. And clearly we were prioritizing that industry much, much more in the 60s and 70s than we are today. So to think that we would have the same level of advancement or the
It's the
rate of
only
advancement
science that
as
has
a,
regress.
please, I am in the middle of a sentence. To
I
think
don't give a
that,
shit what you're-
okay, I understand you don't. To think that we would have progressed at the same rate that we would have progressed at in the 60s and 70s now, when we are prioritizing the space industry less than a quarter of the amount that we were prioritizing it in the 60s and 70s, makes me think that not only do you not understand physics, you also don't understand economics.
You don't understand physics, bro. You literally
Surely
don't.
I don't understand physics. Definitely the guy with a physics PhD doesn't understand physics, but the meathead who
You
does
don't have
Krav
to
Maga
know where
all
it
day
came from.
probably does.
Krav Maga is not a real martial art, but
Based. What a guy. Going up on YouTube. I'm sorry I kept him up so long, y'all. I needed to clip farm. It was a good clip farm too. Thank you for the Galaxy NASA payroll. I appreciate you. Too many kicks to the head. Indeed. Look, I respect martial artists, but, martial artists shouldn't think that they know more about physics than physicists. That's a reasonable thing to say, right? Critical faculty. Oh, I know who critical faculty is. Critical faculty, I'm not going to bring you up because on these kind of live streams, I only bring up opposition. But welcome. Chambala? Did I pronounce that?
Actually, it would be Chombala, but that's
Chambala,
okay.
Well, I appreciate that.
I
Chambala.
just heard what you said, and I'm like, dang, I might as well not come on, because again, I completely agree with what you're saying and what you do, but at the same time, I'm like, my two questions would be, first of all, when did we as a society decide that intellectualism is a no-go? Like, when did this happen?
2015. 2015.
I'm still trying to.
It's actually maybe 2013.
I thought it was like 2020, like recently.
No.
More recent years that happened.
It's the Tea Party's fault. But look, Chumbala, I'm gonna let you go because I do have a strict opposition only policy. But yeah, it was probably 2013 with the Tea Party. Everything is temporary. Everything. How's it going?
Hello, man. What's good?
You know, things are good. So, how old do you think the Earth is? Everything.
I'm actually not sure, but I want to learn more about like that. So the guest that was just on here arguing with you, I want to give an example that I learned in school. So
But
I'm not sure what.
Look, so
I'm not sure what the.
if you want to talk about the topic, that's fine. But I am looking for people who disagree with the background. So
Can I just give an example of like how he said that we can't do every experiment?
no, I'm not bringing up friendlies to, you know, bash on previous guests. Let's talk to Richard Holder. Richard Holder, how's it going?
Hey. Pretty good. Forgive my voice. I kind of lost it recently, so if I sound like a 1,000-yard smoker, I apologize.
You do, but I appreciate you, and I thank you for telling me that. So, Richard, how old do you think the Earth is?
Oh, pretty old. I just have one question.
Well, how old is
Sorry.
pretty old?
Several billion years.
Then I gotta let you go, Richard. Sorry, bud. It's opposition only. I should read some super chats because I kind of spaced them. Let me read some super chats and we'll bring up our next guest afterwards. From Boogie the Cat with the $2. Meow. Meow indeed. From Grimmy with the $5. As a martial artist, I'm curious what art they practice. Well, he's an MMA guy, which means that he doesn't like practice martial arts, he just beats people up, I guess. From Virtuous Path with the $5. Sounds like he constricted the flow of oxygen to his brain. That was such a good one. I should have used that. That's such a good one. From Grimmy with the $5. Again, bet guest teaches at a McDojo. I don't even know if he teaches. From White Gold with the $5. Constructor is right. I pray to you before meals and before bed. Please accept my tithes. Praise Dr. God Blitz. Indeed. Your prayers are received. From Casual Panda with the $2. Bet the caller has sweet bow staff skills. I bet he does. Honestly, I bet he does. From Furtive Pata with the $5. I don't know what carbon is, which brings me to my next point. Gematria. Yeah. From Brand Does Metal with the $2. Joe Rogan says I'm smart, so I'm smart. Joe Rogan knows that he's a meathead. And, you know, despite I don't really like Joe Rogan, I do appreciate that he knows that he's not smart. From Orion Cooper with the $2. I max level of projection with this guy. That's a good one too. From Jack Fetter with the $5. For sake, I just can't today. Caller, read a book, take a course, learn something. Intelligent people are easier to trick. We're so doomed. Actually, what's interesting... Dang it, muted, sorry. So it's fairly hard to trick an intelligent person into changing their views to, like, you know, trick them into believing something else. It's fairly easy to convince an intelligent person that they're correct about something. So that's definitely true. Like, this is well studied psychologically. Intelligent people have an easier time convincing themselves that they're correct, even if there is cognitive bias happening. So, you know, you got to be careful. If you're a smart person, you've got to be careful. From this person whose name is very long with the $2. Caller, teleport yourself back to idiocracy, please. The world is becoming closer and closer to idiocracy every day. From Boogie the Cat with the $2. This is driving me Google debunkers. Indeed it is. From @Devil with the $5. Wrestling jiu-jitsu coach who has cornered MMA fights here. Being smart is very much not a requirement for success in the cage. Look, I'm not saying that it doesn't require an immense amount of talent to be a successful MMA fighter. It doesn't require some immense amount of knowledge about your own body and things like this. Like, this is something that takes a lot of skill and a lot of training. It's just not like training your critical thinking skills, right? It's just a different set of skills. And, like, there's no shame in that. Like, we need people who, well, we don't need MMA, but like, you know, we're interested as a society in people who do MMA, so people will be drawn to doing that. And other people, we need people who are interested in doing science creation. We need people who are interested in producing scientific research. We need people who are interested in, you know, becoming doctors and like all sorts of stuff. From Bren Does Metal, again with the $2. Anyone hear Mr. Plinkett when he says World War I? I don't know who that is, so I can't help you here. From Garbagamon with the 5 Canuck bucks, monarchies famously lost their power as an effect of World War I. What a silly conspiracy. Yeah, that's like the whole thing. And like the important point is that a lot of the kind of two centers of scientific research during that like turn of the century era was the United States and Germany, both of which were democracies at the time. No, I'm sorry. Germany wasn't a democracy, but it was like the German Empire. But they were like a really liberal, progressive society. From Lee with the $10, Guest knows absolutely nothing about the world, whether it be history or science. Guest is proof that there's no God, and all good God would never create someone so purely ignorant. Yeah, fair. US is not a democracy. I mean, it is. Like, we elect our representatives. That's what makes us a democracy. From Jack with the $5, forgive the editing. A live camera feed would still be digital. Ah, indeed it would be digital. From Gretchen with the $5, Blitzy, please advise Constrictor to donate his brain to science for CTE studies. He's obviously not using it anyway. World War I was in 1938. Yeah, fair point. From NASA Payroll sent me $5, which is lovely. From Binary Ghosts with the $2 or with the $5, the Earth is 2.5 hours old. We can only hope that the one running the simulation decides to just let it run rather than close out the game. I agree. From Space Goat with the $2, love your channel, Saturn bots forever. Saturn bots? I don't know what that means. From Gretchen with the $3, I dated in 2008 with Joe the plumber for McCain. I think that's probably true. Was the Weimar Republic progressive or liberal? Well, look, I mean, it was progressive for the time. The Weimar Republic... Oh, actually, wasn't... The Weimar Republic was post-World War I, pre-World War II, right? Yeah, so the Kaiser's empire fell in World War I. History around that era is confusing. From Mika Makapo with the £10, thank you so much. With my work, I clean the floors and the scientists do quantum physics and carbon dating. I don't tell them how to do that, and heaven help them if they tell me how to do that floor. It works best that way. Yeah, that's a fair way to run it. From Talks the Great with the $5, if by that same logic as the last person we spend so much in military, where are laser weapons and shiz? Yeah, that's a fair point. How does one donate to you? It's through YouTube. You can also send gifts on TikTok, of course. From Binary Ghost with the $5, MMA has basically distilled down to Muay Thai for striking standing and BJJ for wrestling and groundwork. Yeah, that's like, I don't watch MMA, but like that's the lore that I've heard. Only a few more left. From Demtro with the $5, that guy was a combination of all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Splinter. What? From Chris Ponder with the $2, Bill Gates says we don't need doctors anymore. Really? That's crazy. And from Masterminder with the $2, PSA to chat, I was joking, I'm on Blitz's side. Fair enough, I appreciate you. Also, is that the Yu-Gi-Oh logo as your, like the Yu-Gi-Oh back of the card face as your profile picture? Anyway, let's bring up User with a whole bunch of numbers after his name. User, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Is there a name that you'd prefer I call you?
Cody works.
Cody. Right, Cody, how old do you think the Earth is?
I think it's probably about 2.54 billion years old, probably around when it formed.
You're off by 2 billion years.
Off, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
4.54. But look, User, I am looking for opposition only, so I'm gonna let you go. But thanks for being here.
Well, hold on, I have a point real quick.
Let's talk to Six Party. Points can be made in the comments. Six Party, how's it going?
This is going good. Could you elaborate on like who's saying that Earth is 6,000 years old?
Oh, I don't know, Joel Osteen, who runs one of the largest churches in the world. If you just Google churches that teach the Earth is 6,000 years old, you will find a long list. We want specific church names, but like, if you're familiar with young Earth creationism, which is like a fairly popular idea in the United States, any church that teaches young Earth creationism teaches that idea. So like, if you want names of specific churches, I know Joel Osteen teaches such a thing, and he runs one of the largest evangelical mega churches in the world. There was another guy who looks like a goblin whose name I forget currently. He looks like straight up evil, but I don't remember his name, and chat will know. Well, yeah, there's Ken Ham and Kent Hovind as well. Kenneth Copeland, that's his name, yeah. Kenneth Copeland also runs one of the largest mega churches in the world. He also flies on a private jet. So yeah, there's like a lot of people, a lot of giant churches that teach this. So yeah, I mean, if your church doesn't, I'm glad. But that's not like that's not true about every church.
Well, more people need to tune into your lives, because it's pretty sad that there's some rich people that think that Earth is 6,000 years old.
Well, I agree, but thanks for being here, Six Party, because I'm looking for opposition. Yeah, lots of Kens and Kents. Yeah, I should actually assemble a list, because I actually do get that question a lot, and I know that it's I know that Joel Osteen and the other guy, Kenneth Copeland, or I know that they're both like two of the huge ones that teach young Earth creationism, but I should just like assemble just like a list of like actual churches. And by the way, Will.i.am, I'll bring you up in a second. I just want to show you what Kenneth Copeland actually looks like, because dude like looks straight up like evil. Like, look at this guy. He just looks evil. Let's see if we can find some even more evil looking pictures. Actually, I think that that's the same picture. Right, like what's the joke? He has like evil phrenology or something like this. Anyway, let's bring up Will.i.am. Will.i.am, how's it going?
It's going well.
Would you prefer William or Will.i.am or Will?
Just William. William's
Okay.
Trust me, this conversation will go pretty quickly.
Okay, William.
Can energy be?
So,
Yeah,
how
sorry.
old do you think the Earth is?
I would say like some I'd say 100 billion years old on a guess.
Well, you're way off, but on the other side, it's like 4.5 billion years old or so. But look, I am looking for opposition, so I'm gonna let you go, William.
All right. Yeah, I had a
Thanks
question.
for being here. I know. I know. By the way, if you have questions and you want to ask them, what you can do is you can join the Discord server. Go to discord.gg/drblitz. You know, Dr. Blitz, but doctor is abbreviated. You can join the Discord server and you can get your questions answered there. You can even ping me if you want to. You can talk with like-minded people. You can get announcements about when I will be live, when I post videos. Lots of great stuff that you can see on the Discord server. And if you're watching on TikTok, you can even talk to the YouTubers. If you're watching on YouTube, you can talk to the TikTokers. So it's a great place to be. Battlelogical. What does Battlelogical want to talk about? Battlelogical. How old do you think the Earth is?
Definitely around 10,000.
Oh, okay. Why?
Yeah, because God exists, and I think that the evidence points towards like the Earth being billions of years old, or like you know, the universe being billions of years old. But I think it was just constructed that way to make you think one thing, but like rather trust God instead of following that.
So why was the Earth constructed to make it look like it was billions of years old, despite only being, you know, 10,000 years old or whatever?
So it's kind of like it's God telling you, would you rather follow me or what you deem to be evidence?
Well, wait a minute. So so God planted fake evidence?
Sure, but I don't think that that's like that's deception, because God's not necessarily lying to you. He's telling you the truth.
Planting fake evidence, that's an example of deception, right?
No, it's kind of like say like, you know, for a fact, let's say I had like a ball and I had two boxes, right?
Wait, Battlelogical, how old are you?
18, 2007.
Okay.
I mentioned this plenty of times.
Okay.
Yeah, so suppose I have like two boxes, right? A and B, and suppose I was like some sort of magician, and I put the ball inside of box A, and I told you, hey, the ball is inside of box box B, and you're like, no, I saw you put it in A, right? And I'm telling you that it's in box B, and it's obviously, but you can't see it, but it actually is in box B, right? But you're just using your evidence to say, oh, it's in box A because I saw you put it in box A. But I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you the truth.
Well, you would be lying to me if, like, let me give you perhaps a more analogous example. Let's say that you took a video of yourself putting it into box A, and then, or maybe you took a video and then you like doctored it so it made it look like you were putting it into box A, and then you showed me the video, and then you told me that you put it in box B, and I'm like, but I saw you put it in box A.
No, I'm not. I'm not making the claim that I put it in box B, because then I would be lying. Because you can see the video.
No, sorry. Suppose it's actually in box B, but you show me a video of yourself. You show me a doctored video of yourself, showing me that you put it in box A.
Yeah. So the video shows me actually putting it in box A, and I'm telling you that I put it in box B. Technically, I would be lying because
yes, and that's what God did.
Yeah, but God did not lie, because God is just revealing.
He did. The video that he left us is all of the evidence that he planted.
And he's telling you not to follow it.
Yeah, so this would be like you saying, this would be like you doctoring a video of you putting it in box A, and then you telling me, yeah, that don't trust that video. Trust me, I put it in box B.
I mean, do you have any epistemic certainty that it is possibly the case? So technically, you can't.
What are you talking about? I mean, the point is you said that he made it look older than it is. That is deceptive in action.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just kind of like what you deem to be like older. It's like, for example, you see a banana.
That's what older means.
No, I understand that. It's kind of like, let's say you see a banana, right? And it has like dark spots all over the banana, right? You assume that this banana is probably like old, right? But it could have been the case that banana was like green 5 minutes prior. And God just made it the case that, it just turns brown. You just use your prior evidence to come to the conclusion that this banana is, older because I've seen other bananas. But God never told you that's what happens to banana like after that many times. That's just what your instincts tells you.
Instead, God gave us in your view, of course, God gave us rational faculties that are reliable and therefore are able to come to true conclusions about the world around us, except in this particular respect, apparently.
Yeah. Sure.
So why would we not trust the faculty that God gave us?
Yeah, because there's certain things. Obviously, I'm not saying that you should reject all of science, but I think
just the ones that destroy your worldview.
Sure. I mean, you can think of it that way, but I think it's kind of like little like hints. Like it's like, it kind of makes you like think more. Like, why would God do this? And I think that's just the beauty of it. You understand what I'm saying?
Should we reject the science of radioactivity?
No, I'm just saying, like, the whole point I'm trying to, like, radioactivity, should we reject the science of it? I think that, I think you can make a case for it.
Make a case for rejecting it or make a case for accepting it?
Yeah, you make a case for rejecting it or accepting it.
But then we wouldn't have, like, x-rays.
Yeah, sure, but you're just, like, I wouldn't even say, like, you're just granting that prima facie, right?
Granting what? I'm asking a question.
That radio waves are true and that such.
I'm not talking about radio waves.
What are you talking about?
Radioactivity.
Oh, radioactivity. Yeah, I mean, still, you're just granting that prima facie.
Grant that radioactivity exists?
Yeah. It could be the case that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, it could be the case there were brains in a vat, but nobody believes that.
Okay, just because nobody believes it, that doesn't mean that.
Do you believe that radiation exists?
Wait, did everyone believe that the second tallest mountain?
Cool deflection. Do you believe that radiation exists?
I think that radiation. I think radiation exists. Yeah.
Okay, I think that radiation exists. You think that radiation exists. So we don't need to have a conversation about a hypothetical person who is globally skeptic.
Yeah, I mean, if we have like an argument with that, and then they just like appeal to epistemology, then
look, neither you nor I are holding the position that radiation doesn't exist. So why are you proposing some unrelated epistemic issue when neither of us actually hold to that epistemic problem? Like neither of us accept that as a problem. So why are you making that argument? It sounds like you're just trying to deflect.
I'm just going to say, obviously, I'm going to like reject things that goes against what God has told me. You understand? Like, obviously, I'm not going to say that we derive. Has God told you that
radiation doesn't exist?
Has God told me that radiation doesn't exist? God hasn't told me that radiation doesn't exist.
Okay, so then why would you reject radiation?
I just told you I accept radiation. but
Okay,
I said that
good.
you
So
can make a case.
so has God okay, so somebody can, you can't, and
Yeah.
I can't. Or rather you wouldn't and I wouldn't. So
I mean, yeah, I
rather
wouldn't
than
until
talk
I
about
find
some
out.
why talk about some case that somebody might make if neither of us want to make that case? Instead, we should talk about the things that you and I actually believe. For example, you and I both probably agree that the discovery of radioactivity and radiation has been helpful for human civilization, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we figured out X-rays and CT scans
Yeah,
and all
sure.
these things,
We
right?
can make.
It's the same physics that is responsible for that discovery is the physics that's responsible for radioactive dating, or sorry, radiometric dating.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So
yeah, I mean,
it
but I
seems
see
like,
like
it seems
the
like
whole
you'd have to reject one rather than the other, or you'd have to reject both if you want to reject one.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, I'll accept what doesn't go against God, and I'll reject what does go against God.
That
And
seems
I
like
think
a poor epistemic process.
I don't think that's poor. How is that a poor epistemic process?
Well, because essentially you're not actually using any, we should say, rational means to evaluate new information. You're just sticking to some preconceived, you know, opinion or belief that you hold, and you're rejecting new information if it conflicts with that idea.
Could it be the case that I'm right, though? Could it
Of
be
course,
the case
so surely you could be right, but it doesn't mean the epistemology is good.
Okay, yeah, maybe the epistemology isn't at least so-called quote unquote like rational, at least to what we know so far. But I think that I can make a case to hold it, and I don't think you have any way to actually disprove it. I think you have evidence to go against it, right?
Yeah,
You're
so
probably
we
better
rely on
evidence
evidence to form beliefs. If you don't rely on evidence to form beliefs, then I don't know why you hold beliefs at all.
Wait, and one other question I did have would just be, you know how you said that, okay, well, universe is expanding. This is why we don't see all the light in the sky. Could you affirm that in roughly 3 trillion years, we won't see any light in the night sky?
It's hard to predict what the future will hold because we don't know how dark matter will evolve.
But do you hold that view? Do you let's say a quintillion years? Would you say that there's going to be any light in the supposing that the Earth still exists?
Will there be any light in the sky? It's
any
again,
stars.
it's not clear what the future will hold.
Okay. No, I'm just saying that if it does, I mean, if the future held infinitely in the past, it will infinitely in the future as well.
It's not clear what the universe will be like in 4 trillion years is what I mean.
Well, no, though, you understand where I was going with this, right? So if the universe was eternal, then there shouldn't have been any light in the night sky. Because
No, that doesn't
when space
follow.
is stretching, it's not only is it stretching like the wavelength of the light, but it's also stretching the space in front of it.
Right, that
prevents the light
assumes
from
that it's
reaching
been
where-
expanding the whole time.
What was that?
That assumes it's been expanding the whole time.
Yeah, that is assuming that.
But that's not an assumption that people are making when they're talking about an eternal universe.
Okay. Wait. Are you holding to like what is it called? The conformal cyclical cosmology model?
I'm not holding to any particular model.
Be honest. Do you actually understand that model?
Yeah, I've written a paper about it.
Really?
Yeah.
So when it's like the
Roger
birth of a new
Penrose.
Yeah. Oh, so if it's like the birth of a new aeon, right? If you say that, well, the end of the universe is larger than the beginning, how is it relatively identical to each other?
So there is a conformal identification that happens. The claim made by Roger Penrose is that the conformal structure is the thing that matters when you're at the late scale behavior or when you're in the late time part of the universe or in the early time part of the universe. That's the claim by Roger Penrose, that it's only the conformal structure that matters because there is no conformal variance. The entire structure, all of the photons, all of the space-time is only described by the conformal structure there, and so you can make an identification because there's no way to physically distinguish them. But this is sort of off topic. So look, it sounds like if your position is that you just want to believe the Bible because, well, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, and that you will just not believe anything if it conflicts with your beliefs, you understand that that's like bad epistemology and it's probably going to lead you to incorrect conclusions more likely than it'll lead you to correct conclusions.
I don't see how that follows.
I mean, generally, wouldn't you say that a good epistemology is more likely to lead you to correct conclusions than a bad epistemology would?
I mean, I think that there's like levels of epistemology. I think that gravity is more evident than evolution.
Wait a minute, I thought that you didn't use evidence to form your beliefs here.
No, I'm just saying that when it comes to like certain things, you're saying that good epistemology is better than bad epistemology.
Yes.
You would
actually,
agree.
by the way, I think that that's like definitionally true.
Okay, yeah. So you would agree that gravity is like more evident, right, than say the theory of evolution or human evolution, at least.
It's generally pretty hard to compare the level of evidence across domains because you can't like make a strict statistical analysis just because the methods of statistical analyses are different across domains. So it's just hard to say. I mean, like, yeah, probably. It's probably the case that we have more individual data points for gravity existing than we do for humans evolving. That's probably the case, but it's just hard to actually evaluate and say that one is more evidence than the other when there's not really a good way to compare them.
I mean, it could be the case that they're both true absent of mind, but I think our knowledge is limited. So I think that if we do have more evidence, yeah, I would say that it's probably likely the case that that thing is true. However, like the few things that
unless if it disagrees with your worldview, right? Like radiometric dating
what
has
religion
tons of evidence.
rejects. I mean, what religion rejects isn't like necessarily something that's like clearly obvious. Religion doesn't reject gravity. It doesn't say that if you let go of something, it's gonna fly up rather than fall down. It kind of makes like the assumption that,
right. So you have to give a little bit more, you have to do a little bit more work. But the point is you're specifically rejecting radiometric dating, which is, based on, I don't know, quantum mechanics. So it seems like you kind of have to reject one of the founding assumptions of radiometric dating. One of them would be various principles or specific principles of quantum chemistry. Another would be various principles of nuclear physics, which is related to quantum physics. You're going to have to reject something in order to believe that radiometric dating is not reliable.
Actually, I don't see how that follows because it's not the case.
Or you have to believe that God is a deceiver. That's the third option.
No, I don't have to believe that God is a deceiver. So when you say that I have to reject one of them, it could be the case that the two aren't even correlated. Why do you have epistemic certainty?
What two are? I never made any claim about epistemic certainty.
Well, you said that like I forgot exactly what you said. It would just be like
So there's quantum chemistry, and
radioactivity. You're saying that if you believe in radioactivity and you reject like quantum chemistry or whatever, if you reject one of them, then you likely have to reject the other one. I don't think you have any epistemic certainty.
You misunderstood. My point is merely that the way that we come to a high degree of confidence that radiometric dating works is we rely on a mixture of chemistry, quantum chemistry in particular, things like electronegativity and the like, and nuclear physics. So chemistry gets us to understanding the formation conditions of certain compounds, certain crystals, and nuclear physics gets us to how long it takes for those compounds for those nuclei to decay. And so one of those two things, if you want to reject radiometric dating, you're going to have to reject one of those things. Or alternatively, you can just accept that God is a deceiver and God planted fake evidence.
Wait, I can reject both of them though, right?
Well, you could, but then you'd just be doing the thing that you said you shouldn't do, which is just rejecting things that have tons of evidence. Like it'd be like rejecting gravity.
I mean, do you have like how certain are you that it just comes down to the dichotomy of those two things?
Well, or you could reject both if you wanted to, but then again, the point is that those are like the
founding. Can you accept both?
Yeah, you can accept both, sure.
Mm-hmm. So
the point is that there's kind of two assumptions that go into uranium-lead dating. The first assumption is that nuclear decay rates are like well understood via quantum mechanics, and the second is that crystal formation is well understood via chemistry, in particular crystal chemistry. And so if one of those two assumptions fails, then of course you can reject radiometric dating. But that means that you have to reject one of those two, starting premises.
I know, but you just don't have like any reason, like at least epistemic certainty to believe.
Nobody said anything about certainty.
No, about like the relation between, quantum mechanics and radioactivity or quantum.
What do you mean? Nobody said anything about certainty. We have just loads and loads of evidence that this is the case.
Yeah. So the whole point is that it doesn't matter whether I accept both, reject both, accept one, or reject one.
Okay, so your claim is that we just don't have any way to make the claim that there is a link between radioactivity and quantum mechanics, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're just rejecting evidence. You're just rejecting the evidence that we have that indicates that there is such a link.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, which you said that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't reject the things that have tons of evidence.
Well, no, I said that we can accept things, at least that doesn't go against God, right? But where in the Bible does it say that
you must reject the link between nuclear physics and radioactive decay rates.
I mean, I don't affirm the Bible. I'm not a Christian.
Okay, so wait a minute. So then how do you figure out what God tells you?
Wait, I'm a Muslim. I follow the Quran.
Okay, so where in the Quran does it say that radioactive decay rates are unrelated to nuclear physics?
Why is that like unnecessary or even a sufficient?
Well, because you said that in order that you can just reject things that the Bible or that God tells you to reject, or that goes against God. But where does God tell you that goes against him?
It doesn't. But I mean, ultimately, what you derive from those things can go against something that God has proposed, such as Adam and Eve, right?
Right. So I mean, like, look, it just sounds like you're saying that I'm just going to reject things, even if they're stupendously well evidenced. I'm just going to reject things that go against my religious faith because why?
Yeah, because God says so. Because
okay, you understand that that's like just shitty epistemology, right?
I mean, if that's the way you see it.
To be clear, have you spoken with God?
Have I spoken to God? No.
Okay,
No.
so you're filtering what you believe God said. Well, first, you believe God filtered what he said through Gabriel, through Muhammad, through scribes, through your own or perhaps through some teacher's interpretation, through your own interpretation. And you think that that's a reliable way of knowing what the original intent was?
Yeah, because God said.
Well, no, that's
God
what you think God said.
No, God affirmed full proposition. I mean, preservation, not proposition.
Well, you think that that's what God said, right? But the way that you figured out that that's what God said is through that entire chain of reasoning. Or that entire chain of interpretation, rather.
I mean, if that's the way you see it, but
I mean there is a long chain of interpretation that has to happen in order for you to come to the conclusion that everything is perfectly described in the Quran.
I mean, don't you think that it's reasonable to believe that? Wait, first of all, do you accept that ex nihilo does entail God?
No.
Well, can I prove to you why ex nihilo does entail God?
I mean, you can try, sure.
Yeah, so ex nihilo just means that we're just going to take 2 time points, T1 and T2. Well, this is going to be unrelated to time in itself, right? We're just going to say T1 is logically prior to something existing, and then T2 would be that matter existing, right? So if it is the case, so how many times is 6 greater than 3? Twice. 5 is 5 times greater than 1, and 1, we're going to represent as the matter, is infinitely greater than 0, right? So
no,
it only
not right. That's a nonsensical statement.
No, it's not nonsense because you're just saying that 1 divided by 0 would just be undefined. But I can just say 1 divided by 0 is infinity. And
you
then
can't
0
say that. That's false.
Why can't I say that?
Because 1 divided by 0 is not infinity.
I think it's infinity because
You're
if I just
incorrect.
take the limit, if I take the limit 1 over n as n approaches 0, then the limit approaches infinity. So if I just eliminate the limit, extrapolate the limit.
So when we say the limit approaches infinity, what that means is the limit is unbounded. It does not mean that the limit becomes infinity, right? Because infinity is not a number. We've been over this battle.
I can extrapolate the limit. So it could just be the case.
Extrapolate it to what? Infinity is not a number.
Yeah, it's just a concept. The concept would be that.
Do you think that when you divide 2 numbers, you always get another number out, or do you think that sometimes you can get a concept out?
I think that I mean
because the range of a binary operation on integers, for example, or on real numbers, is the real numbers. It's not.
Wait, why do I?
It's not a concept.
Why do I have to accept that it's undefined instead of infinite?
It's how division is defined.
No, that's the way that you defined it, right? So I can just say that 0 times...
It's how you were taught it.
I mean, I can say 0 times infinity is undefined. And then say that 1 divided by 0
you can, because infinity is not a number that can be operated upon by the multiplication operator.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just like the whole point, though. The whole point is 1. I'm going to make the case that 1 is infinitely greater than 0, and God is infinitely
I have a question.
God must have been the cause.
Is the entirety of your argument for creation ex nihilo implying God reliant on misunderstanding mathematics?
I don't think I'm misunderstanding mathematics. I think that
you definitely just did.
I think I'm using mathematics in my favor because.
Okay, so let's write this down. What's premise 1?
Premise 1 would just be.
Hold on, I'm going to pull up the notepad and then we can both see it. Okay.
Okay. So premise 1 would be that if we represent matter as 1 and nothing as 0, 1 is in premise 2. 1 is infinite.
We represent matter as 1 and nothing as 0, then
yeah, then it's just going to be that 1 is infinitely greater than 0.
Greater than 0.
God is infinitely great. God must have been the cause. Well, can you understand why it's the case that I can
This not only is this
not
not sound, it's not even valid.
Wait, but can you accept
This
that
is not even
I
a
can
valid syllogism.
Okay, it's not a valid syllogism because I just made it up off the top of my head right now. I'm making it like a good one, but I don't think that that's. I would just have to take some time.
Yeah.
I can
Also,
make a
P1
long
is
one.
false.
How is P1 false?
Because
Why
1
can't
is
I-
not infinitely greater than 0.
Wait, why can't I accept it? Why can I take that to be the case?
I mean, you can, but it's false mathematically. You would just have to
No,
reject
because-
mathematics.
Wait, does that apply
Standard
in all
like
possible
ZFC.
worlds?
Does what
So-
apply in all possible worlds? We're talking about
Yeah,
mathematics.
does 1 divided by 0, is it undefined in all possible worlds? Or
It
can there be a
depend-
possible world in which we...
So mathematics are based on axioms. It depends on which axioms you're using to define your mathematics. If we're
Yeah.
defining 1 and 0 in the standard way as is done by mathematicians, then that means that, yes, P1 is false.
Okay, well, I'm just going to reject that, right? I don't have to
Well, then
accept
this is not
PEMDAS,
going to be
right?
this is not going to be compelling to anybody who, thinks that mathematics, as is typically done by mathematics, is the correct way to do mathematics.
Blitz, but that's the thing. That's like me saying that
this
2
is like
plus
saying
2
so. Look here. Let me do something else. If matter, sorry, I actually don't need to erase all of it. If we represent matter as 1 and nothing as 0, then 1 is 1 more than 0. P2, God is infinite. Conclusion, God cannot be the creator.
No,
now my
the-
P1 is
I'm using-
actually true.
Well, no. The thing that I'm using multiplication and division. You're using addition and subtraction.
So what's false about my my argument here? Which
Yeah,
premise
what's
fails?
false? Yeah, because it's just going to be that you're using addition.
Is P1 false?
Of course it's false.
Oh, okay. So which part is so P1 is a conditional, right? So
Yeah.
if we represent matter as 1 and nothing as 0, actually it's not even a conditional, it's just kind of like a definition. So
the
you're
thing is-
so we're using 1 and 0 as an analogy to talk about matter and nothing. And so the only place that P1 could be false is if you're telling me that 1 is not 1 more than 0.
Yeah, I mean, 1 can be represented as an infinite number of infinitesimals.
So you think that 1 is not more than 0?
1 is more than 0.
1 is 1 more than 0. You don't think that 1 is 1 more than 0?
I think it's 1 more than 0. I think it's infinitely greater than 0. So I think that like 6
1 is 1
2.
greater than 0. Do you think that this is false?
Okay, wait. Well, can I please explain? Okay, so I think that 6 is 2 more than 4. It's 2 more. Sorry, 6 is 3 more than 3, but it is 2 times greater than 3.
Where is times in this?
Well,
this
again,
premise?
you're just using addition. I don't have to.
Yeah. So
accept
why
that.
are you? Wait, you don't have to accept addition?
Well, no, the matter can doesn't have to be represented as 1. It could be represented as any finite number, and you can like reduce the finite number into an infinite number of
Pathological.
infinitesimals.
Have you ever considered taking a math class?
I'm a math major, buddy.
There's no fucking way you're a math
Yes,
major.
I took algebraic geometry.
There is no
I took
way you're a math
algebraic
major.
geometry
Okay,
first
can
year.
you define for me what a topology is?
A topology?
Yeah. What are the
Just be
what
like-
are the fundamental axioms of a topology?
Yeah, it would just be like manifolds and stuff.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not just manifolds and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Manifolds.
it's like,
Not all topological spaces are manifolds.
well, no, I never made that claim.
You just said it's just like manifolds and stuff. You're not.
I mean,
you're
no,
not-
manifold is one
Okay.
concept.
Pathological. You're 18. You are 6 months into your, not even 6 months, 5 months into your first year. What classes have you taken?
Algebraic geometry.
There's no way you've
homotopy
taken
type-
algebraic geometry as a
yeah,
freshman. No
homotopy
way.
type theory.
Okay, so you should be able to tell me what a topology is.
Yeah, I just told you what a topology is.
No, you should know the actual definition, not just
Yeah, so it'd
manifolds
just
and
be like
stuff.
like 4-dimensional shapes and stuff like that.
That's not what topology is. What
Yes,
classes
it
have you
is.
taken? What classes have you taken?
I just told you. I
Be
took,
honest. What classes have you taken?
Yeah, homotopy type theory.
Okay, so
I've
I would
taken-
bet you that topology is a prereq for that course, and you don't know what a topology is.
Have you taken homotopy type theory?
No, I never did algebraic geometry. But what I did do is I took topology. What I did do is I took real analysis and algebra and number theory and
Well,
differential
I
geometry and
think
all these
the
other
first
things.
thing we did
because
in,
I actually graduated
topology-
with a math major.
Well, we did homology. Homology was like our first thing that we did in topology.
You didn't take a topology class. You just said that
Yes.
you didn't.
Well, yeah, I told you I did take a topology class in 8th
Okay,
grade.
so in the topology class, the first thing that they would do,
In
day
8th
1,
grade,
maybe
buddy.
day 2, in 8th grade?
Yes.
Okay, so define for me what a topology is, and I'll pull up the definition, and you can compare. We can compare what you say to the definition.
Yeah, so it'd just be like using using like 3-dimensional shapes into like a 4-dimensional reality, and it would be like
No,
essentially...
that is unfortunately not what a topology is.
Yes, it is.
A topology. Here, let me show you. A topology is an object. It is not like a vibe, by the way. Here you go.
Yeah, it would just be like a Klein bottle. That's like a topological
That's a
shape.
vibe. Here's what a topology is. Topological space is a set X together with a collection S of subsets X satisfying the empty set X and S are in S. The union of any collection of sets in S is also in S, and the intersection of any pair of sets S is also in S. That is what is required to have a topology.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
All right, Battlelogical, get out of here. I've had my fun with you. Hello, YouTube. I don't know why he likes getting like wrecked by me every single time mathematics comes up. I just don't understand it. Anyway, let's read some super chats and we'll move on to our next guest. From a Dwayne Warren with the $5, BJJ requires high level critical thinking skills at the higher levels. Meatheads are meatheads, but human chess is still a thinking game. Okay, so what's probably true is that there is a kind of thinking game that's involved there, but it's a very different kind of thinking game than like the kind of like problem solving that is done by, you know, scientists or mathematicians or engineers or whatever, right? It's just like a different kind of thing. From Ferdinand with the $5, Kenneth Copeland is so bad that even my Christian parents hate that guy. Yeah, he's pretty bad. From 2FunX with 5 Canuck bucks, have some money for for many bananas. I will. From Dwayne Warren with the $2, how are we sure that God's time is 1-to-1? We're not. How are we sure that there is a God's time though? From Jack Fetter with the $5, how can this even guy get through life if he can't assume the last thing that happened will happen again under the exact same circumstances? Hashtag banana. Yeah, so he has to reject things like induction sometimes when it disagrees with his worldview. From Binary Ghost with the $10, radiation could be responsible for a good chunk of Abrahamic religion. The Ark of the Covenant has consequences for exposure to what is inside that is similar to radiation poisoning. Interesting, probably false, but it's an interesting thought nonetheless. I mean, have you seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? From Binary Ghosts again with the $10, furthermore, it is claimed that the Ark is in a church in Ethiopia. The guards of the entrance to where it's held often get debilitating diseases that line up with long-term radioactive exposure. Again, probably not correct, but it's an interesting thought. By the way, so King Jordan says, what topology is? Topology is a branch of mathematics and used in physics to study. I was asking what a topology is, not what topology is. A topology is a specific type of mathematical object. So in particular, I'll just show you again. Given a topological space, one refers to the elements of S as the open sets of X, and it is common only to refer to S in this way by the label topology. So S is a topology. Just to clear things up. From Zimpop with the $2, because God says so. Why are we devolving? It's always been this way. There have always been such people. From Trent Trez with the $5, Muslim word salad master, on a scale of 1 to 10, how old is your girlfriend? Hashtag rock hard for Blitz. Well, he's 18, so yeah. From Mindforged Manacle with the $2, 1 is infinitely greater than 0. I am infinity heir. Ah, true. That would make us all infinity heirs. From Binary Ghosts with the $5, 1 is the loneliest number, although 2 can be just as bad as 1. Indeed it can. From Garbagamon with the 5 Canuck bucks, sounds like he could be a really smart guy if he gets over his subconscious fear of hell or death or whatever. I don't know. Like, it just seems really dishonest in my view. From Mindforged Manacle with the $2, chemistry is moles and stuff. Indeed, chemistry is indeed moles and stuff. From Patrick with the 1,000 Hungarian, what's the Hungarian Forint, Hungarian Forint, thank you. Math major, we don't even learn about homology in undergrad. Homology needs a lot of topology and algebraic topology. That's exactly my point. Like, I would be so surprised if any undergrad, like maybe like senior undergrads will take like an algebraic geometry class or something like this, but I would be very surprised if a freshman would ever learn anything about homology. From Flash Perez with the $10 for the popcorn on your next Dr. Stone session. Well, I appreciate that. From Binary Ghosts again with the $10, I think Muslims haven't had as much experience with arguing for the existence of their God as Christians have had. I would suggest they take a look at old Catholic arguments and build from there. Well, they don't want to, because that would be like giving up, right? And from Lord Illuminous Pooh, just to make it clear, we are the Illuminati, we the Illuminati are not responsible for Trump. That was totally Hydra. Indeed, hail Hydra. Indeed, it's true. All right, somebody says, do you know the Elliot argument? I do, and it's a terrible argument, Jeff. So, Jeff, you should tell the Elliot argument guy that it's a terrible argument, and that if he wants to prove it, he should come onto my live stream. Did I talk to Storm the other day? I did talk to Storm the other day. Storm might be a flat earther. Let's talk to Storm again. Elliot banned me and called me slurs when I debated him. Yeah, he did that to me too.
What's up, man?
Storm, welcome back.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Storm, how old do you think the Earth is?
Oh, I don't know, but I wanted to ask you a question about yesterday when we were talking about the theory of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
You had an example of the lead balls and the mirror with the laser and all that moving, and that mass attracts mass.
Yep.
So can you, what material did they specifically use for that, I imagine you said they always do it, or it's been shown that it's the foundation of proving gravity. So what material did they use to attract mass to mass?
They use a whole bunch of different ones. So I've seen it done with a ceramic. I've seen it done with brass. I've seen it done with lead. I've seen it done with gold. I've seen it done with, there was one paper where they compared two different materials, and one of them was, I think it was beryllium. So it's done with a lot of different materials. It's just easiest with like lead or with gold, because those are very, very heavy, so you don't need like a huge sphere to get measurable effects.
So you're saying that any mass will repel or attract another mass?
Yeah, yeah, it will. It just might be a small amount, because some things are not heavy. Like styrofoam is really lightweight, and it's about the mass. It's not about its volume. So the effect of styrofoam will be smaller than the effect of, say, lead for the same size stuff.
Okay, so you see, I find that hard to believe, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to do that test. I'm going to see if the balls attract in any way. I'm going to try that the best I can, because you're telling me that would mean that I should feel the tug or pull of another human being when I'm walking next to them.
No, it's a very, very small force. That's why you have that's why you have to set up the apparatus very carefully. That's why it's often done in a vacuum, and why you often have like large, like huge lead balls that are like millimeters away from the other one, so that you can see these tiny, tiny effects.
Yeah, but that's just, again, dust doesn't work that way. I don't see dust. Dust floats in the air. Why doesn't dust come together and just fall to the ground all at once then? See, that's what I mean. We can't do those tests for ourselves.
We can. I showed you a guy on YouTube who did it.
No, not really. Because
what do you mean we can't? Yes, we can.
Guy, I don't know what materials
I can show you another. I can.
Wait.
He talks about it in the video.
I don't know
what
material he uses.
He tells you in the video.
I'm going to watch it. The point is that I find that hard to believe that a mass, any type of mass, like let's say a briefcase, is gonna make a vacuum move because of its mass. That's what you're telling me.
Because of its mass. Look,
mass. You're saying mass attracts mass.
In non-controlled environments, the gravitational effect of like some random household object is going to be much smaller than like basically anything else. Like if the air is on in your room, then the wind blowing will have a bigger effect than like the gravitational attraction of like your briefcase or whatever.
That's
similarly
why he did the test in
dust.
Non-air.
Yeah. So the point is that this is like the forces are very small. That's why you have to be very careful. And so
But that's
it's
well, that's
just
funny. Why
not
should
surprising.
why is it so small then concerning the Earth then?
The Earth,
Why-
because
I
the
mean,
Earth
the
is
Earth-
huge.
So you're saying it's just enough to make it, it's just enough so that it's small enough to make increments that you can't almost tell. That's
Look,
that's what you're.
So the Earth is huge, and briefcases are small. So the Earth is if the effect is due to mass, then the enormous mass of the Earth is going to make the forces enormous compared to the effect from like a briefcase or like a bowling ball or whatever.
All right, I'm gonna just try to do my own test. That's all.
You
I
should.
mean, I just
there are,
yeah.
by the way, there are like instructions that like you can find on university websites of how you can set this up so you can do it properly.
What would that be called exactly?
It's called look up Cavendish experiment and like look up Cavendish experiment instructions or something like this.
Okay. Hey, one other question.
Sure.
Concerning space. Okay. I mean, I never thought to think of it, but recently I saw something where guys explaining that how the cameras that were taking the film out on the moon and space. So space is very cold. Why is it that all their material came through with no problem? Why didn't the film freeze or the cameras that they were using?
Space isn't cold. It's not really cold. What it is that there's just not really like if you're in the shadows of like the sun, if you're like, you know, in the shadow of something, then you're just not you just don't have any heat. And so things will eventually cool off, right? You know how if you have like a hot thing and then like even if it's a glowing red hot, eventually it'll cool off just by giving off heat. So that will happen to things in space if they're not given a source of heat like the sun. But it's a slow process for things that are fairly cold. Like if there's no wind around or no air around to take the heat away from you, you're going to cool off, but it'll be very slow.
Okay. All right. Again, I'm not educated. I'm listening, but I'm going to do that test, man, and I'm going to get back to you, bro. Because I want to know.
You might find that it's more involved than you think. Like it's doable, but it's going to take like you'll need some like hardware. You'll need to like actually get like a proper setup, and like you know, it's probably not that expensive, but it is kind of involved. So take your time and be careful about it. And I'd love to hear your results.
Okay, no doubt. Thank you, bro. Thank you for hearing me.
Take care. He was on yesterday. He came in really hot and then he chilled out. So I was happy to talk to him again. From Gretchen with the $5, you said no U versus physics this week, but you still managed to hand me my physics L. I might sue. I'm sorry. From Mindos with the €2, guest is right. I feel an attraction to Dr. Blitz. Hey, I'm married. From Tim Davidson with the $5, it's simple. Matter is a hugger. The larger the crowd, the stronger the hug. Ever try to leave a group hug? That's your jumping on Earth. That's a fun analogy. Truth over tea. I mean, I can bring you up, but we've had this debate before. And I don't know, like it's probably not much is going to change, right?
Yeah, what's up, man?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. How you been?
I'm okay.
Good. Good.
But look, so I mean, we've done this debate before. Do you just want to rehash it, or?
I have actually a new one, but could you give me like 30 seconds? I was gonna say read off another super chat.
I don't have any other super chats, but yeah, I can give. Actually, I do. I do have one from LR with the $2. Dyson Vacuum Gang. What? Am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something.
Okay, sorry about that.
Welcome back.
Yeah, no, I had a phone call from work, which I might get back, but I should be free for a little bit here.
Yeah, sure.
So yes, you and I will disagree on this, although my church never told me that.
Well, yeah, so this is like, look, I understand that like a lot of churches don't, like the Catholic Church like accepts evolution, for example. And like a lot of like normal churches do, or like don't say that the earth is 6,000 years old. Like when I say normal, I just mean like typical in the US. However, there's like a lot of like, especially like the you might say fundamentalist evangelical churches and like mega churches that are often also very political. They will make this claim. Like you have Kenneth Copeland and you have Joel Osteen and you have kind of like these like Ken Ham and Kent Hovind and like these types. They definitely run churches or have ministries that teach this, and so that's what I'm referring to.
Right. No, I got you. And I would say Ken Ham, for any other young Earth creationists, is like the worst possible person. He's completely uncharitable and doesn't really know the data. Just uses. And
I hope you feel the same way about Kent Hovind, by the way.
Well, he's not like a prominent figure.
He definitely was. He went to jail for 10 years, which maybe is why he's not as prominent anymore. But he definitely he has like a long ass Wikipedia page, for example. So
right. I know Ken Ham has like a big ministry with Answers in Genesis and whatnot. Kent Hovind.
Yeah, sure.
He just shows up on Standing for Truth because Donnie, like, for whatever reason, likes him. But anyways, I think that mine has always been more of a philosophical thing, right? So I think there's a way to look at this to where it's not like, okay, let's look at the data and okay, bam, there's our answer. Because I think we have presuppositions whenever we're looking at the data, no matter what your worldview is. Every worldview has presuppositions.
Sure, absolutely.
We're willing to explore them. So if naturalism is true, the Earth cannot, or is very unlikely, that the Earth is 6,000 years old. That would be like completely impossible. Yep. Whereas if theism is true, the equation changes. So how does that work?
So when you say theism, do you mean like standard classical theism, like the triomni creator God, or do you just mean like if there exists a deity that created the universe?
Well, you could even say deism, right? Because
if deism is true, I think it's like possible. If theism is true, I think you run into issues with deception.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. Now that I've heard this argument before, but this is like the problem with that argument is we're presupposing that it must be done via a naturalistic mean or a scientifically interpretive mean in order for it to be non-deceptive, like the way the universe is. So like the deceptive argument runs, God is tricky. It's making us look like. No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Like, oh, well, the universe appears to be older. Why would God make the universe look this way if it's actually not this old? Right. But that's just us presupposing that it had to be done in this form or fashion in order for it to be true, when we could just be wrong about that.
Wait, what had to be done in this form or fashion in order for it to be true?
Well, like whatever Big Bang model you affirm, like whatever the case may be. Go ahead.
Look, and maybe we are saying the same thing and I just didn't understand, but my point is merely that if theism is true, then, there's a lot of baggage with theism, fine. Like, there's a lot of assumptions that go in, like God loves us, all of this stuff. Then the faculties that God gave us are both rational and reliable, at least most of the time. That's in fact one of the justifications for theism, that, we have these faculties, and how can we justify that they're reliable unless there's a God that gave us them with the intent of them being reliable. So we have these faculties that God gave us that are reliable, which means that conclusions that we come to via these, natural, like physical faculties, our five senses, our rational brain, the conclusions that we come to should at least be fairly reliable. And God would have known this. God would have known that we have these fairly reliable faculties, and then God gave us facts about the world that, given those faculties would be used to understand those facts, we would come to the wrong conclusion. And so that's the deception. God gave us these tools to understand the natural world, and then planted facts in the natural world that are false.
Well, I don't agree that God would have planted facts that are false facts. That's a contradiction. It can't even be.
Well, okay. Well, God planted. Let me rephrase. God planted facts of the natural world, which would lead our rational faculties to come to wrong conclusions.
So that would be, again, this is where like the fundamental disagreement is. We're assuming that this naturalistic process must have been the case, when this is like, I think it's poor philosophical reasoning to begin with. I don't, like, from a hypothetical standpoint, there is no reason we shouldn't further explore this. Right? I don't think that we should just disregard it because, the Bible appears to literally say a 6-day creation. Like, that's why we should do that. No, and then completely disregard science. No, there's a battle that must be had there. So that's why I disagree with like the fundamentalist churches that just say things with bad epistemology, like you were saying earlier. However, I think that if we evaluate naturalism versus theism first, then we can have a justification to go one way or the other. So it wouldn't necessarily be a lie per se if theism is true. We're just starting off thinking incorrectly to begin with.
Well, look, I mean, I'm even willing to grant, suppose that theism is true, right? Just suppose it is for the sake of argument. The question is surely, okay, this is not a question. Surely you agree that God gave us rational faculties and reasonably accurate senses, right? if theism is true.
Yes.
And what that means is that we can learn things about the world using those the faculties that we have, the senses that we have, in a way that is naturalistic in nature, right? Like, we don't need to rely on theology in order to figure out how an MRI machine works, right? We can use our rational faculties and our reasonable senses to figure out how things work about magnets and the like, right?
Correct.
So the point is that even if theism is true, that doesn't mean that we should expect that our the naturalistic conclusions that we come to as a result of our investigations of the world that God left us, it doesn't mean that those should be distrusted, right?
No, I wouldn't say that either. But that doesn't mean that they're correct per se. Like, because we've had, like, the atomic theory has changed in the past 100 years, right? I don't even think we use atomic theory. But
sure we do. I mean, like, that's debatable, but I know what you mean.
Okay, so, but this would, because your argument then says that we have a problem with theism now because at one point we were wrong. But we've learned more and we realized there's something different now. Just like genetics have changed, every aspect of our scientific understanding today has changed in the last 100 years. And so it could very well be in 100, 200 years from now, the way we currently view how old the universe is, or things like that, that could also change.
But it's not just that we were wrong. It's not just like theism has a problem because, we're not wrong. It's the issue that there is this fact of the matter about the world. The prototypical example is, zircon crystals with significant quantities of lead in it. There's that is a fact about the world. And all of the data that we've collected using, the faculties that God gave us is that it takes a long time for such lead to accumulate in those crystals.
Right.
And so it absolutely is the case that it could be true that we just don't understand how lead crystals form, zircon crystals form, or perhaps we don't understand how radioactive decay works, or perhaps some third thing that, maybe accounts for how we could have so much lead in these zircon crystals without having had a long time period. But the point is there is something fishy there, that we have this fact about the world, the lead in the zircon crystals, and all of the available evidence is pointing us towards this view that is incompatible with the view that is promoted in the Bible. And so if God wanted us to come to the correct conclusion, it seems like, he would have known that we would have, come to this incorrect conclusion given the evidence that he, given the zircon crystals and, the uranium and the lead and all of this stuff, and given the faculties that we have. So why leave the zircon crystals in the state that makes them look like they're old?
So, there's a couple different responses to that. But this is how I would start off with saying, like, zircon, we're talking about measuring the lead, the parent-daughter relationship between uranium and lead, right? And as there's more lead, less uranium means there's more time for the daughter element to grow, right?
Yep.
So, because the decay rate. Okay. So we have to assume the starting position of the uranium and the lead in order to make the assumption, okay, it is this old.
Yeah.
And there's so that very assumption is unprovable. We have no way to scientifically, we can't observe that.
We don't prove stuff in science. We just collect evidence, right?
Yes. What's the highest probability? Correct.
But the evidence is pointing that, this is this process. And of course, we're not just looking at a single zircon crystal, right? We are looking at, thousands of zircon crystals that all showed the same features. It's not like that there's like this weird one fluke, and so we set our age limit that way, right? So it's that we have like this consistent story that, we have a lot more lead in these zircon crystals than we would expect if the Earth was quite young. And then we also have this consistent understanding of the chemistry of zircon crystals, how lead atoms can enter into zircon crystals during formation, or how they can't, and how uranium atoms can enter into zircon crystals during formation, etc. We have all of these stories that are all very well substantiated. And when you put all of that together, there is roughly a single conclusion that you can come to. And so one of these things must fail, but all of them have tons of evidence backing them up independently.
So they would be, and again, I see where you're coming from. Well,
you there? Hello? Truth? Can you guys hear him? You cut out there for a sec. Oh, where'd he go?
I got a phone call. I gotta go. I gotta let you go, man. I'll try to come back later.
Sure. Thanks for being here, bud. See ya. Truth over tea. We haven't spoken in a while, but like he's a good dude. I've spoken with him before. He's always thoughtful, always intellectually honest, as far as I can tell. So yeah, let's talk to Naruto. I didn't know that the Naruto was coming up. Naruto, how's it going?
How's it going, Blitz?
I'm doing all right. Naruto, how old do you think the Earth is?
It's definitely. I think it's 3 point. No, it's 13 point. No,
That's the
hang on,
universe.
hang
You're
on.
thinking of the universe.
Yes. Is it 4.5?
Yes,
billion?
Naruto, I'm gonna let you go because you don't think the Earth is young. We have some super chats from L'Oreal Ashley with the $5. All hail Dr. Blitz. Let's not hail me. Hail the lava lamp. The lava lamp deserves your praises, not myself. From Dr. Fudge with the $5. XKCD's What If did a video where he goes over how space isn't cold. It's would a submarine work as a spaceship? Interesting. Yeah, space isn't cold. It's just really hard to get hot. From Herman Nudix with the $2. Another super chat. Read it. Good doctor. Okay, well I did. And from Binary Ghosts again with the $5, the answer is that everything was put in place pre-aged for reasons. That's what I'm getting at. I'm like, what are the reasons here? And from Tim Davidson with the $2, that's not the Naruto, it's just a shadow clone. Oh, you got me. You got me there. Just a shadow clone. Let me make sure that I didn't miss any cash apps. Oh, we did miss some cash apps. From Rob with the $2 for your harassment of the chuckle fucks is killing me. Harassment? From Samantha with the $10 for the Scientific Church of Dr. Blitz. No, it's not a scientific church. Just a regular church. We just pray to a lava lamp. But thank you for the $10. All right, let's bring up our next guest. Let's bring up 001 Tiz. I don't know what that means, but let's bring him up. Okay. The James Bond of autism. That's rough. Let's talk to Filthy GG Easy. Oh. There they are. Filthy, how's it going? Oh, he left. He didn't want to be here. That's understandable. Shifted one religion to another. Yeah, Misty, the joke is that there's a lot of good puns involving lava lamps. Like, instead of Leviticus, you have Leviticus. Or instead of Matthew, you have Matthew, because moths like flames. It's like an inside joke that's funny. There was another good one. I have my list here. We instead of the Vatican, we have La Vatican, like lava, but La Vatican. Get it? We're called the Illuminati. It's like a bit, right? It's not something serious. All right, let's talk to High Knees Hobbies. Hobbies, how's it going?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So Hobbies, how old do you think the Earth is?
I suspect we have the same thought there. I have a question. I wondered about.
It says join if you disagree, though.
Yeah. 10-second question and kick me if you don't want to answer.
All right, fine. But no, if the next person that comes up to do this, I'm blocking.
I won't do this again. I'm sorry. Quantum physicists claim that quantum entanglement is instantaneous regardless of light years of distance. How do we know? We can't.
We
test
don't,
light
and
years
that's
of age.
we don't, and that's probably not something that's claimed by many physicists. Some might, but not many.
Did I misframe it, or do you have a better way to frame that? Like
No,
the
it's just not something like there's no information that's happening. There's no information that's being transmitted. So
why do so many people say that? They're
because
not
they're
physicists,
wrong.
right?
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
but I gotta
okay.
kick you.
Thanks, man.
The only reason that was allowed is because you gotta always allow one, and today is typically Ask a Physicist Day. Vray Lee,
Hello.
how's it going?
Yeah, everything's all right. How's that your place?
I'm doing all right. Vray Lee, how old do you think the Earth is?
Well, since I've been born into an Orthodox Christian family, like I'm not really extremely religious, but I do believe it is young. It's going to be around 6,000 years, as you put it here.
Okay. Why do you think that? Besides just like indoctrination.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right when you say indoctrination, but the thing is, like, I grew up around this kind of like I had a family who was really like traditionally Orthodox Christian and everything, and we were really in school. For example, right now I'm pursuing a bachelor's degree in statistics, and I really want to do physics later maybe for my master's and shit.
Okay.
But currently the thing is, like, the reason why I think it is young is maybe because we cannot determine how long does it take to create lead and similar materials that construct the Earth as it is.
So the trouble is that we have things on Earth, like little crystals, that we can figure out how long ago they were made. So like,
okay,
the crystals on Earth, I mean, they certainly don't, it's unlikely that they predate the existence of Earth, right? Some of them might, like, you know, some asteroids and stuff, but these crystals, they're called zircons. We do have statistical methods that we can use to establish how long ago they solidified. So, you know, you have a like a liquid molten, you know, chemical bath basically, and then as it cools, like, crystals will form. And those crystals will then, like, so we can basically start a timer when the crystal forms, and we can figure out how long that timer's been going.
So wait, for example, for the majority of the materials that are constructing Earth, do we have a precise measurement of how long it will take for such an element to be created after the crystallization and everything?
Well, so look, Earth didn't form from like crystals. Earth formed gravitationally, right? You have a whole bunch of dust and rocks and stuff that clumped together gravitationally. And then after that happened, you know, the Earth is still really, really hot, and there's like magma and lava everywhere. And then the Earth slowly cools off, and then some crystals start to form. These crystals are called zircon crystals. And it's those zircon crystals that we can use, that we can figure out the age of. So these zircon crystals would have happened after the Earth already formed into like a ball and was, you know, really hot, and then started to cool down.
Okay, and we have basically fabricated the creation of the.
Sorry, you cut out. Can you repeat that? Oh, you there?
Did I stutter? Something happened?
Yeah, your internet just shut out. So you said basically we have fabricated, and then you cut out.
Just a second. It should be all right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, so my question was, so since you said that we can basically measure how long does it take to form a zircon, like, have we ever done that? Like, can you basically do it in a lab?
I mean,
like, calculate how long does it take?
We can make zircon crystals in a lab, but the point is not how long it takes for them to form. The point is how long has it been since the zircon has finished forming.
And how do we measure that?
Using the lead concentration of inside the crystal. So when the zircon crystals form, there's certain chemistry involved that basically prevents lead from being part of the zircon crystal during formation. And so once it solidifies, there's no lead inside. But uranium can produce basically impurities in the zircon crystal as it's forming. So when a zircon crystal forms, you can have, it's mostly going to be zirconium, silicon, and oxygen. But sometimes there will be a little bit of uranium in there, and basically no lead. But uranium is radioactive, and the uranium decays, and its final result after decaying for a long time is lead. So then you go pick up a zircon crystal, and you measure how much lead is in it, because you know that it started with basically none. And so if you know how much lead is in it, and you know how much uranium is in it, you can figure out how long it's been since that uranium has been decaying to turn into the lead. And that gives us basically how long it's been since the crystal existed as a solid. Because once the crystal exists as a solid, you can't get new uranium can't get in, old or lead can't get out, And so that's when it kind of crystallizes and starts the clock ticking.
So basically, that is the scientific way of how we calculated how old the Earth is, or
yeah, it is.
Okay, and that would be how long?
About 4.5 billion years old.
4.5 billion. Okay. Okay. Listen, I'll just have to finish my bachelor's after I get my master's. Maybe I'll understand the topic a bit more, because I'm only getting into it. Like, it's been 2 days since I've started following you and everything. So
yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, like, there's a lot to learn, and honestly, statistics is a really good place to approach this from too. I mean, you will need some physics background, because actually understanding and maybe even some chemistry background, because actually understanding what's going on here can be a little bit complicated, but like, you definitely have the tools, especially if you get a degree in statistics.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, thanks for being here. All right, let's read some super chats and then bring up our next guest. So from Tim Davidson, with the $5, in the beginning, God turned on the light, and the light was lava. Yeah, that's roughly it. Hold on. In the beginning, there was no light. And then the lava lamp said, let there be light, and then there was light. Except lava lamps don't talk, because they're not sentient. Anyway, from Warren Maroney, thank you for the $10, Warren Maroney. Hey, Dr. Blitz, I'm trying to formally learn relativity, GD6, etc., and it's always fun to ask counterfactual questions, so here it goes. If light was ever found to be inconstant, what would happen? Well, so what you would need is not only that light is... You would need that the two-way speed of light changes. Now, what would happen? Likely what would happen... Well, so it really depends. It depends on like the means by which it's found to be inconstant. Because you could still have relativity being totally fine. The only distinction being that what we thought was massless, that light was massless, it's actually massive, and it just has a very, very tiny mass, so it always travels very, very close to the speed of light. But at sufficiently low energy, it would travel much slower. That wouldn't change relativity at all, because you could still have an upper limit speed of light for massless things. It's just light wouldn't be massless. However, if we find out that there is no upper limit, that would break some things that we think about relativity. Alternatively, if we find out that light is still massless, but it travels at different speeds, that would be breaking Lorentz invariance, which would have some significant consequences. It would still treat relativity as a good effective field or an effective theory, but there'd probably be some like deeper quantum gravity stuff that's happening that we would learn about. From Ken with the $20, Zircon D's indeed. I should start using that joke. That's quite good. From Binary Ghosts with the $5. Oh, by the way, Ken, thank you for the 20. That's a lot of money, and I appreciate it. From Binary Ghosts with the $5. How do I become an ordained priest and set up a lava lamp church? I would also like to evade taxes. Spread the word. Look, you can just set up a church, set up a temple, even. All you need is you just need an eternal lava lamp. Can never be shut off. That's all you need. We're very accepting. From Binary Ghost with the $2, strike through doesn't work on super chats. Bummer. Oh, I see what you tried to do. Okay, I get it. I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right, let's talk to Nanook. Nanook, how's it going?
Hello. How's it going?
I'm doing
so
A-okay.
I have an argument against the constantivity of radioactive decay rates, and that is because I think there was a scientific study that found the radioactive decay rates vary slightly according to distance from the sun. So that's a thing. You can look it up.
Oh, I'd love to look it up. That seems interesting. Let's look it up.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Is there a particular paper that I should look at?
You can just Google
decay rates change with distance to the sun. Yeah. Okay. Let's look it up. Okay. So I found something from 2010. Okay, so let's pull this up and let's read it.
Sure.
Make this a little bit bigger.
And I apologize if I have to cut out early. I am currently waiting on my professor for advanced lab. So
no, you're good. Okay, so we have this is on phys.org. It's usually pretty reputable. So we have radioactive decay rates vary with the sun's rotation, research. Radioactive decay rates, thought to be a unique physical constant and counted on in such fields as medicine and anthropology, may be more variable than once thought. A team of scientists from Purdue and Stanford, I think I've looked at this before, has found that the decay of radioactive isotopes fluctuates in sync with the rotation of the sun's core. The fluctuations appear to be very small, but could lead to predictive tools for solar flares and may have an impact on medical radiation treatments. This adds to evidence of swings in decay rates in response to solar activity and the distance between the Earth and the Sun that Purdue researchers Ephraim Fishbach, professor of physics, and Jir Jenkins, a nuclear engineer, have been gathering for the last 4 years. I actually just want to get to where they talk about the explanation, which I imagine that they're going to do, because I think I actually know what the explanation is here. I think it's neutrinos.
My core argument is combined with this.
Yeah, so here it is. So Jenkins and Fishbach suggest that the changes in the decay rates are due to interactions with solar neutrinos, nearly weightless particles created by nuclear reactions within the sun's core that travel almost at the speed of light. So there's an important distinction to be made here. What they are talking about is neutrino-induced fission or neutrino-induced radioactive decay, which is a thing that we fairly well understand. And what they're saying is that, well, we get neutrinos from the sun, and it's plausible that those neutrinos can also affect the, what appears to be natural decay rates, because we can't really detect neutrinos particularly easily. And so it might just seem like decay rates change depending on what the sun is doing. Their suggestion, though, is that actually what's happening is that the amount of neutrinos that we're getting is different. And so so that's affecting the decay rates in a different way, or that's inducing nuclear decays in the same way. The point about what a nuclear decay constant is that it's like a property of the thing itself. And of course, uranium can split, for example, like it can undergo spontaneous fission, or it can undergo fission by hitting it with a neutron. And we wouldn't say that bombarding uranium with a neutron changes its decay constant. We're just saying that would induce the radioactive decay.
Right, but that
doesn't change the radiation rate. That doesn't change like the it's called the decay constant, right?
Yeah. So the core argument is that combined with something in geology called Milankovitch cycles, where the eccentricity of our orbit around the sun changes over time. So in the past, the distance from the Earth to the sun could have been different. So the decay rate would have been different if radioactive decay rates are affected by distance.
Let's look at this, though. We can actually just look at the paper and see how significant the decay rate changes are, because I imagine that they're immeasurably small, right?
Yes,
and we know this is the case because neutrinos. It's not really, though, because neutrinos don't really interact with matter very much, so they're going to have a small effect on the decay rates. Anyway, I'm actually looking through the paper right now.
Multiplied by much time could result in several different million years different.
Sorry, I'm just looking for the actual result here. Oh, okay, hold on. I have to go find the paper using my academic access really quick, which I can do. He said definitely using his academic access and not just pulling it up another way. Oh, actually, I think the paper is just quite short. So I did have the original, the full thing. Okay, so let me just read the abstract really quick. The analyzed data were obtained from 3 distinct sets, blah, 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 blah. All 3 data sets, same primary frequency mode consisting of an annual period, additional spectral comparisons to the data to local. Okay, no common phases were found between the factors. Okay, I actually just want to see what their data looks like, because I want to see what how much it fluctuated, right? Because that's an important measure. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so normalized undecayed counting rates reported by Brookhaven National Lab. Okay, so and do they have the actual compounds? Okay, so we can just look at radon, for example. So here's the chart for radon. It's this chart here. And so these are normalized undecayed counting rates reported by the Brookhaven National Lab. This is the data that they're referring to. And so what we're seeing is a fluctuation. Yeah, I mean, this is a fluctuation, definitely real. It seems like a periodic fluctuation of less than 0.1%. And so the point is that even if it's true that neutrinos can induce, say, radioactive decay, even if that's true, we're talking at scales of less than 0.1%. And so maybe it's the case that, I don't know, that our calculation of the uranium decay rate, which is what's used, by the way, the decay rate of uranium-238.
You're not counting those. So the current orbit of the Earth around the sun is not very. It's almost circular. There's not much eccentricity.
Yeah, it's a little eccentric, but not very much.
If you take into account Milankovitch cycles, the eccentricity of the orbit around the sun could have been a lot more in the past. Which
the Milankovitch cycles don't affect the eccentricity of the orbit.
I think they do.
Milankovitch cycles are just with regards to the direction that the Earth's pole or the Earth's axial tilt is.
Is that it, or does it actually affect the orbit around the sun?
No. If I remember correctly, yeah. Here we go. Actually, let's just go pull up the.
If it just affects the angle of rotation, then yeah.
So I'm just pulling up the Wikipedia page because, it's been a while. So Milankovitch cycles describe the collective effects of changes in the Earth's movement or on its climate over thousands of years, blah, 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 blah. In 1920s, he provided a more definitive and quantitative analysis than James Kroll's earlier hypothesis that variations in eccentricity, axial tilts, and precession combine to result in cyclical variations in the intra-annual and latitudinal distribution of solar radiation at the Earth's surface, and this orbital forcing strongly influenced the Earth's climatic patterns. So the claim, I guess, is that there are bits involving the axial tilt. So that's, if we look over here on the right, we can look at the Milankovitch cycles. So in blue, we have the axial tilt. So that's something that we're not really seeing an effect of. That's the thing that's roughly 12,000 or 25,000 years. Then we have a change in the eccentricity between basically 0 and 0.05.
Oh.
And then we have the longitude of perihelion, which is... Yeah, so I mean, like these are all just tiny effects, right? And so even if you wanted to say, okay, well, it's not exactly constant, we're talking like perhaps 1% variation. And so yeah, maybe the Earth isn't 4.54 billion years old. Maybe it's 4.49 billion years old. But like you're not
actually perfectly consistent.
You're not going to get to 6,000 years, right? And the point is that you can account for these kinds of you can just keep this in the error bars, right? I don't actually know what the error bars are on uranium's decay rate. We can probably look this up.
So do we call it a draw?
No.
Oh.
Get out of here, Nanook.
Okay then.
Go to your advanced lab. Yeah. So, and this is an important point. What you can do is you can accelerate or change decay rates by doing stuff to the nuclei. But that's not changing the decay constant, right? The decay constant is fixed by the nuclear configuration. You can like hit the nucleus and make it split, make it break down, but that's not really a decay rate then. That's just changing the conditions that can force decay. And if you want it to be the case that all of the matter has decayed in 6,000 years, that would typically, we would think, would require 4.5 billion years. The Earth would be vapor. The Earth would be a plasma. It would be thousands of degrees. All right, let's talk to GG40 on top. 40, how's it going?
Good, you?
I'm doing all right. 40, how old do you think the Earth is?
One quick second. I'm just going to say this first and foremost. I'm not nowhere close to smart as half of these people are. So I'm not going to sit here and say any of my stuff is factual or backed up or whatnot. But in my opinion, I don't think anything is how old it seems to be or anything. You know what I mean?
Why?
Like, because none of us are God, which I don't believe in God, but I'm just saying, like, none of us are God. So how do we know when this was actually created? We were just here when we got here. So...
But, like, don't you think that we can use science to figure things out?
Yes, to an extent.
Where does that extent stop?
When it starts going towards, like, I would believe non-factual shit, in my opinion.
But, look.
I don't know.
Here's the issue.
This is what I mean. I feel like I'm a little bit stupid on this stuff. I'm here, literally, I've been here for, like, an hour just listening, trying to, like...
No, I gotcha.
I don't know. I'm just trying to learn.
Yeah,
that's
so
honestly all it is.
Look, so you agree that we can use science to figure stuff out? Like we can figure out,
100%.
We can figure out like how far away Venus is from the Earth. We can figure out, that XYZ medicine treats XYZ or ABC disease, we can use science to figure out a lot of stuff. And we can even use science to figure out like archaeology is a science, right? We can use science to figure out like, oh, these ancient Akkadians did XYZ thing in order to appease their gods or whatever. Like, we can figure out stuff about the past that we weren't here for using science.
I just want to like know like 100% like, how do people know that this is like fully backed up? Yeah, I know you guys are like, there's science and stuff like that, but like, how do like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm stupid and I just don't really believe in it too much or whatever, but like, I don't know.
So my question is basically this: there's a lot of things that you're not skeptical about. Like when you go to the doctor's office and they say, oh, we got to take your blood to test for XYZ disease, right? You're not like, yeah, but how do we know that my blood will show if we have the disease? You're just like, okay, yeah, that's like the right thing to do. That's what the doctor says. They probably know what they're talking about. And so like, you're fine with using science to come up with facts about the world or about human biology, whatever it might be. But it seems like you stop thinking that science is reliable when it at like an arbitrary point, right? It's not clear that, why all of a sudden when it comes to figuring out how long ago, I don't know, dinosaurs lived, you don't think science is reliable, but for other things, like for figuring out, I don't know, who the common ancestor between Barack Obama and George W. Bush is, science can figure that out. Like, it just seems like it's kind of like an arbitrary block in your brain.
Yeah, okay, one quick second, then you can kick me because I don't really think I'm making any valid points here, so my bad. But
You're fine.
So with like people doing that stuff where they like dig up certain amounts of like dirt or whatever, and then they kind of like do I don't know what you want to call it, I'm stupid when it comes to that, but like finding out how old things are or like whatever the case may be, isn't there like a whole bunch of data's like going back to like, I'm not going to say the world's 6,000 years old because how do we even know that? I would say it's probably in the middle of it. Like, I'm not going to say the world's 100 years old because obviously it's not. It's more close to 1,000 or more, but I'm not going to say it's 6,000. You know what I mean? Like,
Do you think it's less than 6,000 years old?
I think it's like probably more in the like 3,000-year-old.
We have writing that's older than that.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. So what are you trying to go on here? If we're having all this stuff going back farther than that, then why is this a debate?
Some people think that the Earth is 6,000 years old. It's not 6,000 years old. It's far, far older. It's billions of years old.
Which, yeah, and that should be obvious that this world has been here for ever. Like, what?
But you just
Not
said that you
ever,
think
but,
it's like 2,000 or 3,000 years old.
I mean, yeah, but I told you I'm not totally smart with like all this stuff. I'm honestly completely stupid.
I'm just confused as to like look, like my position is that if you think that the Earth is only a few thousand years old, like if you think it's 6,000 years old or 3,000 years old or whatever, then you're just kind of going against all of the scientific data that we have.
I just don't like going off of things I see on paper. I want to see real.
Well, then if you want to see that, which is totally reasonable, I get it. You have to go get a science degree. You have to go do the science.
No, that's fair, and I 100% agree with that, and like I will go do that stuff like later on in life, but like it's the fact of what you write on paper is just like anybody can write it on paper and it could be
not really
truthful or not. You know what I mean?
That's not really how it works. Like if you want to do science and you want to publish a research paper, you can't just write anything. You have a whole bunch of people who are checking to make sure that you're not making stuff up. You have a whole bunch of people who are checking to make sure that your math is good. A whole bunch of people that are checking to make sure that your experimental methodologies are good. There's a whole bunch of people that are checking these things to make sure that this is good science that you're publishing. And then after it's published, you'll have a whole bunch of people who are trying to prove you wrong.
No, and I completely understand that. I'm just like, I'm not trying to say I'm right about anything, and I'm not trying to say I'm wrong about anything. I'm just trying to say, like, how do we specifically know all this information is right? You know what I mean?
Because the whole business of science is proving stuff wrong, and when you can't prove it wrong, that gives you more reason to think it's right.
That's fair, and I'm probably just, as one of the persons said, like lazy. I'm not actually going to look for this stuff myself, in a sense. But I don't know. I'm honestly just here to learn. I'm not trying to be like stupid or whatnot. I'm just trying to learn your perspective, everybody else's perspective. I don't know. Like I'm here to learn.
All right.
So,
well,
like,
look, 40. I'm gonna let you go, but hang out.
100%.
Hopefully, you learn some stuff.
And
oh, I kicked him a little bit early. My bad. From Ken with the $5. I started an Only Lamps account. My career is shining. Well, I'm glad that you've been illuminated. From Gretchen with the $3. For sake, radioactive neutrino decay, 100% suing now. Yep, sorry. From a Dwayne Warren with the $5, relativity rejects privileged temporal frames. Extending human clock time to a non-physical cause is a metaphysical assumption, not a physical result. Look, we're not talking about anything metaphysical here. We're just talking about how many times has the Earth gone around the sun? That's a question that can be answered and has a has a correct answer, has an actual answer, and it's not a frame dependent answer. All right, let's. Let me shout out the Discord again. If you, by the way, guys, if you want to get to the Discord server, make sure to go to discord.gg/drblitz. That's Dr. Blitz is discord.gg/Dr. Blitz. As long as you're 18 plus, feel free to hop in and talk with the other people. You can, if you're on TikTok, you can talk with the YouTube people. If you're on YouTube, you can talk with the TikTok people. You can get announcements about when I'm live, when I post videos. You can get announcements about when I'm on other people's live streams if it's not standardly announced, if I don't usually talk about that. So that's the great place to be if you want to see more of my content. Second, if you want to see the debate notes that I use, that I've assembled over the last few years of, doing these debates, if you want to see those debate notes, then make sure to become a member on YouTube or Patreon. It's like $4 or $5 a month. You can get a membership, and you get access to my notes. And if you want to see my notes, they look something like this. Oops. No, I want to make this. There we go. They look something like this. Have a whole bunch of articles, a whole bunch of sources, facts, for a whole bunch of different topics. And they're always being updated. So, consider it. Also, you get access to emojis, so that's cool. Anyway, let's bring on our next guest. Let's talk to Luke. Luke, how's it going?
Hi. Good, yeah, you?
I'm doing okay. Luke, how old do you think the Earth is?
Possibly. I'm sort of like leaning more towards the Christian side right now, by the way. But I think it potentially millions to billions, but I don't think that we could actually prove to be billions. I think potentially within the millions due to like ionizing radiation. I think carbon dating though only works for about 70,000 years back.
Yeah, we don't use carbon dating to figure out the age of the Earth.
No?
No, we use other forms of radiometric dating, like uranium lead dating and potassium argon dating.
Okay, is that what was the name of it that I just said? Radiation dating, I think.
It's you said ionizing radiation.
Yeah.
So radiometric dating is similar to carbon dating, except it uses different isotopes.
Okay. But the Bible doesn't actually state that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Good thing that the background doesn't say the Bible lied to you about science.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything about the Bible. It also doesn't say anything about the church. It says your church. So if your church doesn't, then it's not about you.
No.
No. Thanks for being here, Luke. Talk to Mackie Maddock. Mackie, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Mackie, what shape, or sorry, wrong debate topic. How old do you think the Earth is?
So I'm not really too sure about the exact age of the Earth. I don't disagree with the first part. I more disagree with your church lied to you about science.
Well,
because
if your church didn't, then it's not about you.
No, that's not.
It's that simple. All right, let's bring up Emmers. All right, Emmer's having trouble connecting. Let's read some super chats really quick. From Dwayne Warren with the $5. I was responding to you asking why would there be a God time? Oh, yeah. Okay. Relativity. When we're talking about God time, we are beyond relativity at this point. From Gamer Punk Cloud with the $5. Hey Blitz, I tried to join the TikTok, but I installed it today. I would need 1K followers to join. Is there another method you use, or am I SOL? I think it depends on where you are, like what country you're in, because some people can join with like 2 followers. So I actually don't know how this works because it's definitely not made public. But you might have to like apply or something like this, or run your own line. I think people on TikTok will know. Apparently you don't need any followers. You can just join. If you join a live, if you host... So joining live and hosting your own live are different, apparently. So I would look into it. Hosting, you need 1,000, but I guess to join, you don't need 1,000. You need 100 followers in America, maybe. But I've seen 0 followers. So yeah, I think it depends on the country. But yeah, you might be out of luck for now if it's not working. And from Peter Hegwood with the $2, may the great lamp shine upon you. Indeed. May you be illuminated by the lava lamp. Hashtag ILTL. No. Hashtag IBTLL. There you go. All right, let's bring up our next guest. Let's talk to Hutu. Hutu, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing A-okay. Hutu, how old do you think the Earth is?
I think it's roughly 6,000 years old.
Okay, give or take a few hundred years or something like this.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Sure. Okay, so why?
Well, I think that's what's interesting about the prompt is almost in a way more or less arguing whether scripture is true or not. Because I see what you're saying, but if scripture is true, then the earth would be roughly 6,000 years old, right? You're not arguing that, right?
Well, I mean, it's not clear at all that the scripture actually says that the earth is 6,000 years old. I mean, it doesn't say that, right? You can kind of like calculate that and infer it if you make certain assumptions about like how long the creation took and then like what these genealogies mean and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the like if you interpret it in that way, such that from scripture you get to the conclusion that the earth is 6,000-ish years old, which by the way, you know, it's like that's not a given for everybody. That was like an idea put forward by Archbishop Usher. I think it was James of Usher or something like this. But yeah, I mean, like if that's your interpretation, then yes, I would say that has to be false.
Yeah, so just to make sure you would agree that if the scripture is true, we can arrive at the earth being way closer to 6,000 years old than billions of years old. If the scripture is true.
It depends on what sense of true you're talking about. Like you can have like true metaphors, you can have like true allegories that like tell you something about like the human existence, but they're not literally historically true. And so, you know, it just depends on how you interpret the language of the Bible. Whether if you take the Bible literally true, then yeah, probably that you would come to that conclusion.
Okay. Yeah. I just mean factually, the earth would be much closer to 6,000 years old than billions of years old if what the Bible says is factual.
But it would also be the case that like light existed on earth before the sun did, and plants existed before the sun did, and that would also have to be like factually true if the Bible was literally true.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So like I said, the prompt, in what sense would my church have lied to me by arriving at the conclusion that the Earth is roughly 6,000 years old.
Well, they
Assuming
lied to you
the Bible.
about science because it's false that the Earth is 6,000 years old. So if they were making like a factual, empirical claim about the world around us, then maybe it was unintentional. So maybe they were misinforming you about science. You know, perhaps I used the word lie just to be a little bit, more inflammatory, but.
Right. And so your argument is that we have ways, you were saying not carbon dating with that last guy, but we have ways to see that the material here on Earth is billions of years old.
I mean,
right?
even from carbon dating, we can see that the Earth is far older than 6,000 years old.
Okay, so it's based on the appearance of how old something is.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's based off of like measurements of the way things are now and using that to figure out how old they are, which is like how we figure out the age of anything, right?
Yeah, so even then it's just really a debate on is the Bible true or not, because you and I would both agree when a human being comes into the world, they're an infant, right? Adam and Eve obviously were not infants, so in the same way in this debate how old the Earth is, you could say your church lied to you about how old Adam and Eve were when they came into the world. It's simply a matter of, is the Bible true or not?
Is it literally true? Yeah, I mean, sure. That is the thing in question. But if somebody is telling you that the Bible is literally true, then they're either misinforming you unintentionally or they're lying to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, perfect. And that's kind of what I was hoping to arrive at, is really the entire prompt is based on, is the Bible true? Your church has lied to you about the Bible being true.
About it being literally true. Yeah.
Right.
About it being like an accurate historical accounting of the way the world has been.
Unless God does exist. Because if God does exist and he could make a man and a woman fully grown adults, right, at birth, then he could also make an Earth that looks billions of years old.
He could, but if the Bible is an accurate accounting of who that God is, then I take it you would understand that God is incapable of being deceptive.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it's deceiving.
And yet he would be being deceptive if he planted false evidence.
No, I don't think so, because like I said, in just one example, God's made it clear to us he can make something appear old, and that's not deceptive.
That's not deceptive because that's not evidence for a claim. That's contradictory to the scientific evidence, right? Or that's not a claim that's contradictory to the claim of the Bible. The deception comes from God planting evidence in the form of the natural world, basically, that indicates something that is contrary to what's described in the Bible. That's the deception. He placed evidence there that's false, that leads to false conclusions.
I kind of see what you're saying, but the word deceive, a big part of that definition would be right, to make someone believe something that's not true,
right?
Especially for personal gain, right?
Well, I mean, look, it doesn't have to be for personal gain. To make someone believe, like, if your notion of deception requires for personal gain, then just toss that out. We can use a different word, which is to make someone believe or to wish to make someone believe that something that is untrue. Would your God do that?
No, of course not.
Okay, so then whatever word you want to use, that's an example of what this God would be doing by placing this false evidence.
I don't think so at all, because also throughout scriptures we have very easy ways to follow all the way back to Adam and Eve and arrive around 6,000 years.
Right, but look, suppose for a moment that I committed let's not say me. Let's say that suppose for a moment that somebody committed a murder, right?
Okay.
Now, there is DNA evidence there. There is, their own DNA evidence is there. But the murderer who wants to get away with their crime left behind a watch, right? That left behind a watch that was broken in the scuffle or whatever. But importantly, the watch broke, say 6 hours before the police thinks the murder happened. And so they left behind this watch that makes it seem like the crime took place much earlier than it actually did. So even though there is DNA evidence on the scene that it was this guy, even though there is evidence that pins him to the murder, he still left behind evidence. And suppose that this was done intentionally, by the way, by the murderer. He left behind a broken watch. this is still that murderer trying to be, and perhaps successfully being, deceptive to try to get away with his crime. And so it doesn't matter how much evidence there is that the Bible is true. God still planted false evidence.
I don't. What false evidence?
Zircon crystals, for example, found in Australia.
The issue with how old they seem to be.
Yes.
We're calling that false evidence.
Yes.
I think it's just more evidence that God has the ability to create something that appears older than it really is. I think it's just evidence of God's power.
Did God give us senses that are generally reliable?
For the most part,
I mean, like, they're not
yeah,
perfect, but they're like fairly reliable generally. Like, you know, we use them to figure out like modern medicine and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And did God give us, you know, the rational capacity to analyze the world around us using our senses?
Yeah, for the most part.
And it's generally reliable, not always, but it's generally reliable.
Right.
So God knew that we would analyze the world around us using the senses that he gave us and the rationality that he gave us.
Mm-hmm.
To come to certain conclusions based off of the stuff that he left behind. He gave us these faculties for the purpose of understanding the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so he knew that we would try to understand the world. And when we would stumble upon these rocks, he knew that everything we knew about the world would suggest that those rocks are 4.5 billion years old. Just like how the police, just like how the murderer knew that the police would see the watch and take and understand that to mean that the watch was broken during the scuffle and therefore the murder took place, you know, 6 hours earlier or something like this. Mm-hmm. Even though, well, you could say, oh, well, but the police, they could just understand that the broken watch means that the murderer had the power to leave behind a broken watch. That's just not what is the most expected outcome. Mm-hmm. It's just not what the most expected inference is from that piece of evidence that's left behind.
Right.
So God left behind evidence, knowing that the most likely conclusion from that evidence would be that we would come to the wrong conclusions. Sounds like he's being deceptive, trying to get us to come to the wrong conclusions.
Right. When you leave out one very important part, which is, I agree with you. God has given us all of these senses, these ways to analyze the world around us. And I also believe the truth is he has also given us a book that is complete truth, that we can use those senses to read and find the truth.
Right,
So,
that's like the DNA evidence that's left behind. But that doesn't mean that leaving behind the watch isn't planting evidence, isn't planting fake evidence.
Sure, you could. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the analogy is necessarily one-to-one. So there's
which part doesn't work?
In one, a crime is being committed. There is deception happening for personal gain.
Well, so in this case, the crime is the creation of the earth, right?
Right, which I don't, for any reason, believe was a crime. That's where
it doesn't have to be a crime. The point is that there was an event that took place at a certain time. I just used a crime to illustrate a point in a engaging way.
Right, that's where I think the analogy struggles. Is one is an all-powerful creator creating Earth. The other is a human being doing something that I believe is immoral, right? And I believe that's
whether it's immoral or not is not relevant for the analogous description. That's not the relevant part of the analogy. The relevant part of the analogy is that somebody did something at some later time, but actually planted evidence that that thing was done at an earlier time.
Right. I understand.
That's the analogy. So the analogy doesn't fail.
But once you try and tie deception into it, I think it does, because one is a God doing a good thing creating the earth, and the other is
behind evidence that would lead us to the wrong conclusion is a good thing.
I don't think God has done that. Like I said,
who put that evidence there?
Well, like I said, God made the earth, but He's also given us Scripture.
Who put the evidence? Scripture's irrelevant. Who put the evidence there?
God put everything everywhere.
Okay, so God put the zircon crystals in Australia.
Yeah.
Those zircon crystals have inevitably led us to the wrong conclusion about the age of the Earth.
Without Scripture, yes.
No, even with Scripture, like it's just a fact that most people who have looked into this have come to the wrong conclusion that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. It's just a fact that it has led us to the wrong conclusion. And it's also a fact that God knew it would lead us to the wrong conclusion.
if you deny scripture, you will be led to the wrong conclusion that the earth
based off of evidence that God left behind.
Right. Without
which
without
is deceptive. Right?
But we have
like even with scripture, there are plenty of Christians who also think the earth is 4.5 billion years old because of the evidence.
Yeah. I think I agree with everything you're saying until we get to the very end and use the word deception. Like I was saying,
what else is a deception except leaving behind evidence that you know will convince people of the wrong thing? That's just like definitionally deception.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, do you think it's different for a criminal to deceive someone with that watch for personal gain so that they can get away with doing something that was wrong, right? Ethically, morally.
The purpose is not really relevant.
I think it is.
Look, if we're just talking about the behavior of leaving behind evidence that that will knowingly convince people of the wrong thing, you said that your God can't do that, but that's exactly what your God has done.
Right, so in my worldview, I also consider the scriptures he left behind to be part of evidence. You don't.
Right. So, look, did God leave behind... You agree God left behind the zircon crystals, right?
Yeah, I believe he created those.
Okay. Do you believe that a rational mind, examining the world around us, using the senses that he gave us, and the mind that he gave us, would use our understanding of chemistry and use our understanding of physics to conclude facts about how old those zircon crystals are?
Yes, without the Bible, you would conclude that the Earth is.
I mean, the Bible doesn't say anything about. The Bible doesn't say anything about like zircon crystals or quantum mechanics or chemistry, right?
Right.
So like this doesn't conflict with, like, the methods used and the understanding that we have doesn't conflict with the Bible at all, right? The
100%. Yeah, I agree.
So God gave us the rational faculties to be able to come to correct conclusions using those senses about chemistry, about nuclear physics, about all of these things. And then when we do those things, you agree that using those methods that God gave us, if we just apply them straightforwardly, just ignore everything and just apply them straightforwardly, those senses lead us to the conclusion that the rock is 4.5 billion years old.
Right.
Okay. Yes. So God gave us evidence that when we analyzed it using the senses that God gave us as well, ignoring everything else, we come to the conclusion that the earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Right.
That is, according to your position, that is wrong, that is incorrect. But God knew that that is the conclusion that we would come to when we work from a strictly rigorous empirical point of view. If we just ignore any outside factors, that is exactly the conclusion that we come to.
Right.
So that sounds like a deception.
And you know what? I've kind of thought of something now, you laying it out that way, that I've never thought before. I agree with everything you said. I think you're actually right. Where we differ in the worldview is that I believe, just like you laid out, when we rely on our own human senses, our finite human mind in itself without God, we will always end up at the wrong place. I mean, that's the
But God gave us these senses. Why would he give us senses that lead us to the wrong conclusion?
You're assuming we don't have the scripture.
Look,
right?
So, when we're born, we don't have anything, right? We have no knowledge about anything, right? You're born, and then you have to figure out the world through your senses. Now, sometimes that involves listening to people through your ears. Sometimes that involves seeing new things with your eyes. But you have nothing from the get-go. We have to, and we have to use those rational senses that we have to figure out how the world works. Now, we have education and stuff, so we can learn this more efficiently. But imagine we didn't have education. Imagine we didn't have any of this stuff. We didn't know how to read. We didn't know how to write. We didn't have any of this stuff. We would always come to the conclusion, you know, once we made our way down to Australia and found these zircon crystals and spent a whole lot of time trying to figure out how radiation works and a whole lot of time trying to figure out how we would basically always come to the same conclusion that these crystals are 4.5 billion years old, even if nobody had ever told you about the Bible. So, and the point is that you learn about the Bible through your senses as well. So if we can't trust our senses to learn about the age of the earth, why can we trust our senses to learn about the Bible?
I'm trying to give you an answer that's not based in personal experience, obviously, which I think is nearly impossible to do. Why can a human being trust their senses to learn about the Bible, right? and lead them to that being true. I don't really know outside of personal experience if there's any answer I could give you.
But like, look, it's suppose that there was a personal experience that led you to believe that God exists. How would that then mean that you can trust what the Bible says?
Because the personal experiences, if you want my actual answer, because my personal experiences directly align with what the scripture says, and the scriptures affirm everything.
How do you know that it aligns with what your scripture says if you're relying on your senses, which you can't trust, to read the scripture?
I think you can trust your senses.
But you said that you can't.
No, you can, and that's
we
why I
can't
agree
trust our
with
human
you.
senses. That's what you said.
No, not necessarily. I said that you can trust your senses when you were laying out. If we take those crystals, we will arrive at them being, how old are they actually?
4.5 billion years old.
4.5 billion. Yeah, our senses will lead us to those crystals seeming to be 4.5 billion years old, which I think that's true. I think they do seem to be 4.5 billion years old. I just think a God made them a lot quicker than that. So your senses aren't necessarily lying to you. It is true that those
they're
crystals
leading us to false conclusions, right?
I think it kind of depends, because on one hand, I agree with you. Those crystals everything about them are 4.5 billion years old, except for the fact that a God made them a lot faster. That's it.
Well, but so look, we trusted our senses and came to the wrong conclusion that they're 4.5 billion years old rather than 6,000 years old or so. And so why couldn't it be the case that we trusted our senses when we read the Bible with our eyes or listened to the Bible stories with our ears, and we came to the wrong conclusion about God not being a deceptive God?
I think you can come to the wrong conclusion about a lot of things.
So then how do you know that you can trust your senses with regard to the way that God is? From the scriptures.
Regarding what? Because the stance I take
scriptures.
is, I don't believe anyone is 100% correct on all theological matters.
That God is not deceptive. How can you trust your senses with that in that regard?
Yeah, I don't think that would be something you can trust your senses on. I think that would be faith.
Okay, so it sounds like your position is that the only way that you can come to the conclusion that the Earth is 6,000 years old is by not trusting your senses, or rather is by just having faith that your senses are reliable. So that when you read the Bible, you can just have faith that what the Bible says is true. But on the other hand, you're saying we can't trust our senses about leading us to truth with regards to the zircon crystals.
No, I said you can trust your senses to lead you to what the zircon crystals actually appear to be.
I'm not talking about what they appear to be. I'm talking about what they are. Your senses will lead you to a conclusion that they are 4.5 billion years old. And so we can't trust that, but we can trust our senses with regards to the way that we read the Bible because of faith.
I think so, yeah.
But that's not particularly good reasoning, right? Why can you trust your senses in one? Why does your faith say that you should trust your senses in one case but not in another case?
Sorry, can you say the question one more time?
Why should your faith give you reason to trust your senses in one case but not another case?
Well, so I think my faith actually what's the word I'm looking for? Informs my reasoning, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a bad idea. You probably shouldn't do that.
I would disagree.
I mean, the trouble with faith, the trouble with scripture in general, is it can't change, right? Scripture is fixed, been fixed for 1,700, 1,800 years. The biblical canon has been set in stone. And so, even if there was even an iota of things that were wrong, you can't, if all of your information comes from that scripture, there's no way to update your position in line with the new information that you have. Which is generally not a good idea, because there's no reason to think that anything can be infallible, especially when we know it was written by humans. Unless you think that, you know, the humans who wrote it were infallible.
No, I think actually recently I believe in scribal errors.
So how do you know that the statements about God, or the statements that lead you to conclude that God's not a deceptive being, is not a scribal error?
Because it's consistent throughout the scripture. I'm not relying.
There just could
on
be a whole bunch of scribal errors.
Yeah, it would be a crazy coincidence if all of those scribes consistently arrived at that point. Right now,
Would it be any? Look, what's more likely, that there's a crazy coincidence of scribes, or that there was this book that was handed down from on high that has not and will not ever get anything correct ever, or anything wrong ever?
Well, I'm a Christian, so you know my answer.
Right, but my point is like step away from that for a second and think about things from like an objective point of view. How can you determine if your views are correct unless you are willing to change your, or how can you say that you are intellectually honest if you're not willing to change your views in light of new information?
Oh, I am willing to change my views in light of new information.
But if you take the Bible literally, you're not. You're refusing the new information. It's not even that new. It's from the 50s. You're refusing the information that came about in the 50s because it conflicts with your biblical literalist view.
I think you kind of can change. I mean, for example, 2 years ago, I would have told you there is no scribal errors throughout Scripture. Every single thing in it is true.
Okay, so now how do you know that there wasn't a scribal error in Scripture about the age of the earth?
Like I said, because I'm not taking one verse, right, to be true. I'm taking the Scripture.
You're taking Genesis 1:1 to be true.
Well, I'm taking the genealogies throughout Scripture.
The genealogies they just come from when Adam existed, right? But what if there was a scribal error in the way that they in the way that they wrote down the word day, and instead of the word day, they meant billion years in Genesis 1.
That, along with genealogies that we have.
The genealogies wouldn't then conflict. You would just have that humans are 6,000 years old and the earth is 4.5 billion years old, or whatever.
Okay, so your argument now is, what if they got day wrong?
Yeah. It's only mentioned, it's only in like what? It's only written down like 6 or 7 times in Genesis 1.
I don't know actually.
And actually, I mean, even taking into account your scripture, doesn't it say that one day is like 1,000 years for God?
Right, but you know that there's different genres throughout Scripture, and that's definitely not literal.
Oh, okay. So now we're picking and choosing which parts are literal and which parts aren't?
No. Do you disagree that Scripture you just referenced?
I don't think I don't think that Genesis should be taken literally. Genesis is obviously not a historical account. It's a cosmogony. Genesis 1 and 2 are both cosmogonies.
Sorry, can you give me the exact verse you're talking about? I'm curious now.
You mean in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2?
Yeah, the word day.
Yeah, so whenever it says there was evening, there was morning, the first day, there was evening, there was morning, a second day. What if it was just every single time it said day, it meant there was evening, there was morning, a billion years?
Let's see, I'm curious now. And are you saying that maybe the original scripture inspired by God was wrong, or the scribe had written down?
Maybe the people who are writing this down wrote down day when God meant to convey to them billion years. Maybe they meant eon, or they meant era.
Yeah, it looks like the Hebrew word yom is what's translated into day.
Right. So what if yom wasn't the correct word? What if the correct word should have been whatever it is for eon or era or something like that?
Yeah, so what if the original Hebrew was written down wrong by the scribe as it was inspired by God?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm curious if that is used more throughout Genesis. I can't remember.
The word yom shows up a lot in Genesis, but I'm just saying, what if Genesis 1 has the issues, and then they corrected it in later chapters or later paragraphs?
Yeah, it would be a crazy coincidence if every single instance of that word was used incorrectly.
It would only be a crazy coincidence if it was just one person that was writing the first chapter, Genesis 1, and then other people were writing the other stuff. But if like just the one person screwed up because they didn't know how to spell day, so they didn't know how to spell, you know, Netzach, and so instead wrote Yom or something, then, you know, it wouldn't be that crazy of a coincidence.
Yeah, I just think that combined with the genealogies.
The genealogy has nothing to do with the 6-day creation account.
It has to do with Adam
Unrelated.
and Eve. It has to do with Adam and Eve.
Right, but that just tells us how long it's been since humans existed, not how long the Earth has existed.
Right. So you're
the
saying
way the way people get from the genealogy to the age of the Earth is they assume that it was actually 7 days. But if they got the word wrong in Genesis chapter 1 about the word day, and it was actually supposed to be Netzach rather than Yom, well then we wouldn't know how long the Earth has existed.
right. Yeah. So
You accept that there's scribal error is possible. So it sounds like you actually can't come to the conclusion that the Earth is roughly 6,000 years old if scribal error is a possibility.
Yeah, so just to understand your argument, even if you do grant that Yom means a 24-hour day, that's not necessarily your problem. Your problem is using that word in general.
Yeah, maybe the original scribe just didn't know how to write, just didn't know the spelling for the word like, I don't know, Netzach, I guess is the word for eon. He just didn't know that word, and so when God said it, he was like, what's, you know, the scribe asks God, what does that word mean? And then God's like, well, you know, it's like a long period of time. And then the scribe's like, so like a day. And then he writes down day.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and what's that other word you keep saying?
Netzach. I just typed it into Google Translate. It's Nun Sadek Chet is how you spell it in Hebrew.
Okay. I'm gonna look that up as well. Yeah, this is it. This is actually interesting. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'll look into that.
Okay. The point is that if you're willing to accept scribal error, then it seems like you can't be certain about anything with regards to your the scripture that you're relying on.
Yeah, I think if you just try and cherry pick a verse by itself without letting the rest of scripture inform that, and
just a quick question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about men sleeping with men?
I definitely think it's sinful.
But you're just cherry picking a verse?
No. I mean, it's Romans 1, it's Leviticus. It's
how many verses are you cherry picking? 2, maybe?
Let's see.
Maybe 3.
Let's see. Definitely Romans 1. Leviticus. I think there's another one. It may have been in Corinthians. This one says First Corinthians 6. I don't even think that's what I was thinking of, though. At least 3, probably 4.
So it's okay if you cherry pick 4 verses, but not okay if you cherry pick 1 verse?
Yeah, how would taking 4 verses written by 4 different authors, not even in the same
if the 3 latter authors were relying on their interpretation of the first author, then of course they would just copy it.
Well, I don't believe that that's what happened.
You don't think that the gospel writers and the letter writers were relying on their understanding of the Hebrew Bible?
No, not only their understanding of the Hebrew Bible. No, not at all.
Then why do they quote the Hebrew Bible all the time?
Because I think sometimes they do. For example, when Paul is in prison writing scripture, I don't think he's only writing scripture based on his understanding of the Old Testament. I think it's being divinely inspired by God. So when I have 4 different verses across the entire Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, that are consistent with each other, I think that's very different than saying, let me take this one verse out of the Old Testament, right?
Well, I mean, to be clear, you know, the 1,000 years in a day thing, that's pretty consistent with the idea that it didn't mean a 24-hour period in Genesis.
I mean, I think that's consistent with God being eternal. And like I said, I don't think that was literal.
Yeah, but why couldn't you just say that, like, all of the verses about homosexuality wasn't literal?
Why couldn't?
Yeah, they just metaphorically meant that it's a sin.
Well, it wasn't a metaphor in Leviticus when there were punishments for it.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the New Testament stuff, of course.
Well, yeah, you have to take both of them together.
Right. So you're doing the same thing that you're accusing me of doing. So in Genesis, you have this literal account, and then even though that conflicts with some proposed interpretation from some later account, a day is like 1,000 years, because a day is like 1,000 years is just meant to be interpreted metaphorically. But you're saying, well, the Leviticus part is definitely literal because there were punishments for it. But you're not taking the later stuff to be interpreted metaphorically. You're assuming that stuff should be taken literally as well. You're being inconsistent here.
So here's the problem: is 2 Peter is talking about God's nature, which we know is eternal.
Yeah. So when God was saying, it was evening and then there was morning, a day. It was God's nature it was God that was talking, right? It wasn't some humans talking about a day. It was God talking about a day. And so when God says a day, it's like 1,000 years for us.
No, because that's not literal. We're trying to move back to Genesis before we finish talking about 2 Peter, where I think you even agree that 2 Peter 3 does not literally mean that for the Lord 1 day is like 1,000 years.
I think what it literally means is that a day for God is a very, very long time for us. I think that's how it was intended to be read.
Yeah, it could be.
Which means that when God talks about a single day during the Genesis creation account, a single day for God is a very, very long time for us.
Right.
So it would make sense then, in light of that, even understanding this as a description of God's nature, it would then make sense that the way that we understand Genesis 1 is through God's lens, which is that from God's perspective, it was just a day. But from our perspective, that would be many, many years.
Yeah, well, so here's what's interesting is, even for fun, even if we granted that 2 Peter is literal and 1 day is 1,000 years, that still lands us at the Earth being around 12,000 years old.
Right, but the question is the point is that you were saying that it doesn't need to be interpreted literally. It should be interpreted rather that for 1 day for God is many, many years, and that 1,000 years is not necessarily like a literal number to be used, just that like a short experience for God is a long time for humans. And so then it can be interpreted to be however many years you want. However many years even agrees with the scientific view. And then you get away from God being deceptive. And instead you can just harmonize your religious faith with the description of Genesis 1 and the description by Peter.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think 2 Peter is nothing more than further demonstrating that God is eternal. I don't think it has any.
You don't think it has any description, any relationship for the way that God experiences time and the way that we experience time?
No, I think it does. Yeah.
Okay, so
God
it's
is eternal and we're not. I
right.
don't
So
think it has anything to do with the days in Genesis 1.
Oh, so you think that it was just like a random coincidence? What are the odds of that?
Random coincidence.
That like they use the same word? They could have said a week to God is like 1,000 years for us, but they use the same word, and you think that's just a giant coincidence?
No.
They could have said a second to God is like 1,000 years to us, but they use the same word as is used in Genesis.
Right.
I don't know. It just seems like a giant coincidence that, I don't know, man. What are the odds of that happening?
I think it's actually the perfect word to use to make his point.
It just seems like it's a giant coincidence if they didn't mean that this should be literally understood as, God's time is very, very different from our time.
That is exactly what it means. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when God says a day, that's very, very different from what we mean as a day.
So now you're saying
Genesis
in
1.
Genesis 1,
I mean, it's all the same God, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So then when God says a day, that's not the same thing as when a human says a day.
It depends on what the scripture is talking about.
Oh, so we're not supposed to take it literally now.
Some scriptures you are supposed to take literally, some you're not. That's my whole point.
Yeah, that's called cherry picking.
It's not. It's called genre.
It's literally cherry picking.
No, it's called genres.
Go look at the genre distinction between Genesis 1 and say Exodus 20.
Okay.
One is clearly a history. Exodus 20 is a bad example. Just the entire book of Exodus, right? One is clearly a history, and the other is a cosmogony. They're a different genre. One is meant to be interpreted as things that actually happened. The other is meant to be like a just so story, an explanation for why the things are the way they are, so that we can understand where we came from.
I think that's Genesis 2. I think Genesis 1.
No,
would
it's
be
both.
The
It's actually like almost the entirety of Genesis is to be understood that way, because it reads very, very differently than like the Exodus accounts. Except the later parts of Genesis are meant to be understood like as history, but like the first few chapters of Genesis are not written in a historical context. They're not written as history.
Yeah, I think Genesis, when God is creating something himself, should read very differently than...
So it is a different genre than the stuff that you should interpret literally?
Is Genesis a different genre than the stuff I should interpret literally?
Yeah, so like the history stuff, the stuff in like Exodus, for example, that you're supposed to interpret literally. It's written about individual people and individual events and things happen. It's written as history. So there's the genre that you see in Exodus intended to be understood literally. And then there's a different genre, which is not that genre that was meant to be interpreted literally, that Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 are.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
You should consider why there's a difference in genre if they're both meant to be read historically.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say is I think the difference is you have in one book, God is creating something himself. And in another book, human beings are being human beings on earth.
Yeah, so when God creates something, it should be read from God's perspective, right?
No.
Oh, so then why is it written? Why is it not written in the historical way that humans would typically write it? If it should be written in a different way, then it should be understood in a different way.
What do you mean if it should be written in a different way?
Well, because, we're talking about the writings of God's creation, not like the happenings of human events. So you're saying that, of course, you would expect it to be written in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So if it should be written in a different way, then it should also be understood in a different way. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't use the same interpretive lens for two different genres.
Right.
So why are you using the same interpretive lens for two different genres?
I'm not.
You are. You're saying that you're saying that when Exodus uses the word yom to mean day, that's the same meaning that's used in Genesis. You're using the same interpretive lens, even though the genres are different, and one is being told from the perspective of God, and the other is being told from the perspective of humans. Despite that huge difference, for some reason, you're using the same linguistic interpretation, even though you have no reason to be using the same linguistic interpretation.
Because outside of just the word day, Genesis says, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. And there was
so tell me, what is evening?
Third day.
What is evening?
When the sun goes down.
Okay, now how was there evening before there was a sun?
Well, there was light. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And then following that, there was evening and there was morning. So I think all that's required for evening.
So evening is not when the sun goes down.
It is.
Well, it can't be. It can't be if there's not a sun.
Why not? God said,
how can the sun go down if there's not? How can the sun goes down if there's not a sun?
What was the light when God said, "Let there be light"?
It was. I mean, this is one of the ways that we know that this is like obviously made up, because ancient Hebrews at the time thought that like the sky was just its own light and it had its own light, and so like the sky can be blue even if the sun doesn't exist yet. So like that's why they thought that, even though we know now that the sky is blue and sky is bright because of the sun. But putting that aside, the point is that the way that evening and morning are understood in Genesis is not tied with the motion of the sun. It's not tied with the 24-hour period, because the sun didn't exist for the first few days.
Well, it is tied to the light being day and the darkness being called night.
Right, but that doesn't have anything to do with the 24-hour period, because the sun didn't exist to mark that 24-hour period.
Why do you not think that verse 3 is talking about the sun? When was the sun created?
Day 4, if I remember correctly.
What is it?
Yep. Maybe day 3. I can double check for you.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, day 4.
Yep, it was day 4.
God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day.
Yep. So day the sun 4. Didn't exist, and yet somehow there was evening and morning, which means that evening and morning wasn't tied to a 24-hour period for the sun's motion. This is some metaphorical evening and morning, some more godly evening and morning that it somehow exists without the sun.
Yeah.
Which is fine because this is written from God's perspective. This is not a human perspective. So evening and morning don't have to be the human understanding of those things.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a good point.
So consider it. I have to go. I'm very, very hungry, but thank you so much for being here, Hutu.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate the conversation.
Take care.
Have a good.
Oh, I cut him off a bit early, but I do appreciate you. Blitz, stop running from Vor, please. I'm not running from him. I'm just not going to talk with somebody who is so intellectually dishonest. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, if Vor says, yes, I was intellectually dishonest, I dishonestly clipped Dr. Becky, I've taken down the video, I would absolutely debate him again. That's all he has to say. I need to plug the Discord before I read super chats. So, by the way, if you guys are 18 plus, make sure that you go to discord.gg/drblitz. It's a cool place to be. You can get announcements from me. You can get announcements from when videos are made, from when videos are... Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Actually, we have different announcements. Scratch that. I mean, Discord's fine. You should join Discord. But I'm about to post a video. It's about to go live. Let me just play you the very beginning of the video. It's from yesterday. I can tell you what city I flew from anywhere to anywhere, because I actually fly places. You've never flown over Antarctica. You just lied to my face blatantly, and it's embarrassing for you, and you should feel bad, and your mother should feel bad. No. Zibby, how's it going? So that's just an intro taste for the video that you should go watch. It will be live now on the Dr. Blitz Debunks YouTube channel. So make sure to go watch that video and make sure to subscribe to that YouTube channel as well. And let's read some super chats before you go do that. And then we'll call it a day. From Gretchen with the $3, still not clear how many years are equal to one begat. One begat is 1,000 years, clearly. From Joshua Brown with the $5, what are the implications on the universe and the radiometric dating if God was if G was a different numerical value? G doesn't really affect radiometric dating. It does affect like the universe and like, you know, how long it's been since the Big Bang, but it doesn't affect radiometric dating for like the age of the Earth. From Grimmy with the $5, guest, just because you don't know how your God would gain from this deception doesn't mean it's not deception to intentionally alter evidence. Yeah, that's the point. From Dan O'Connell with the 14 Canuck bucks. Thank you so much. Hey, Dr. Blitz, great show. This is a fun topic. It is a fun topic. I just haven't done it in a while because people have been, it's been slow. From Dwayne Warren with the $5, Genesis has days before timekeepers exist, signaling function and order, not clock time. Exactly. And from Grimmy again with the $5, oh, the genealogy, like where did Cain's wife come from if Adam and Eve were the first humans? It's a good question. From Dwayne again, Hebrew is flexible. Yom can mean a day, period, or era. True for man without binding God to a clock. Very true. From Dwayne again with the $2, I should have seen this. Genesis 2:4 is a perfect example of Yom. And then from Ken with the $10, come on, Dr. Blitz, hit him with the zircon. He doesn't think the zircon's real. He doesn't think that the zircon's like a real thing, but I did mention the zircon, don't worry. And we have a $50 super chat, $50 cash app from Grimlock, reminding me to waterboard myself. So I got to waterboard myself really quick. No. Have you guys seen that that guy who's like allegedly Elvis Presley's grandson or whatever, or great grandson, who also allegedly has hydrophobia from rabies and so he can't drink water? It's very funny. Anyway, it's a very, very funny guy. So let's check to see if anybody's live really quick. See if anybody is active. All right, so we will... Ian's not live, so I'm not going to send you guys over there. Anyway, so make sure to go watch that video. It's very fun. Again, go to Dr. Blitz Debunks on YouTube. You'll find it. I just posted it, and you might enjoy it. It was quite the conversation. Guy straight up lied to my face for like 20 minutes, and I called him on it repeatedly. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow for another topic, and